Session at 6:30 p.m. at 25 Oak Drive, Lake Jackson. We'll begin with a Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Sinhanya.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
We'll have the invocation will be given by Councilman Buell.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, again, we thank you for another wonderful, beautiful day and another opportunity to gather here this evening. And as our meeting progresses and decisions have to be made, we ask that you give us the strength, courage, and wisdom to make the decisions that we feel are in the best interest of our city and our residents. We ask you to be with our men and women of our armed forces, both stateside and abroad, our EMT fellows, our first responders, and our firefighters. We ask that you be with everyone that has suffered illness or death in the family. Be with us as we travel home, get us home safely. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Next item we have is on visitor comments, and I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting tonight. Visitor comments is an opportunity for visitors to make comment on items that are not on the scheduled agenda. So is there any visitor comments at this time?
That's not on it? Yeah.
That's not on the agenda.
I have one.
Okay, yeah, please come to the podium and state your name and address. And again, these are items that are not on the agenda, and council cannot discuss them.
Well, why am I gonna talk about it?
Amen. You're gone.
No, I live at 249 Laurel. I noticed that,
Your name, please.
Darlene Smith.
Okay.
Anyway, on Acacia and Laurel, there is a monster boat. It was two. Apparently one's already gone. And it should be in the ocean. It's about 60 foot long. I mean, y'all don't want cars on the grass? Well, I can't understand how they're getting away with two boats there. One's gone, but the other one's still there. I mean, we don't want to be like Freeport, I'm sorry. We're starting to have a bunch of, and people are complaining too. When I had an RV, I had to park it where I paid. Everybody in the man-to-man, there must be 30 trailers all over the place in Lake Jackson, and I don't know why. That's not on the agenda, but that's what I'm going to find out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Yes, sir.
John Gray, Brazoria County. I'm here today to talk about the corruption and police cover-up, and the I know that there's been four different things that have occurred. I myself was assaulted by an off-duty officer. We all saw Officer Cagle and Mendoza not be arrested for their assault, and now with the latest one, an off-duty Angleton cop, who, let me tell you what she did. She grabbed a young lady by the hair, she threw her down on the ground, she kicked her in the head twice, and no arrests have been made. None. If that same night there was a gentleman named Mr. Free, we'll call him, ironic, he was arrested for assault. I already know what the city's next game is. You're going to take the report, you're going to send it, you're going to do send it to a grand jury, then the Brazoria County good old boys will take over from there, right? And we all know how they handle that stuff. But meanwhile, we have four thugs. 1, 2, 3, 4 criminal thugs that are walking the streets and protected because they wear the funny badge and costume back here. We have me and Justin Pulliam, we have many videos that are going to be coming out. And do the right thing. Arrest criminal thugs dressed as cops. Thank you.
All right. Anyone else? Yes.
I'm Ronnie Mendez. I live at 816 Sycamore in Lake Jackson. Touching on the situation that Darlene Smith mentioned about the boats. This boat isn't in the street. It's on the driveway of my next door neighbor. It's a pontoon boat. And it takes up so much of his driveway that he can only park 2 little cars on the other side of the driveway. That's not so much the problem. The problem is he has a big truck and he parks it in the street, and it blocks my view of the street when I'm trying to get in and out of my driveway. A while back, I was told that after 10 o'clock, there wasn't supposed to be any trucks or cars on the street. But apparently this isn't true, because he parks there all day long and sometimes at night too. And it causes a really bad visual problem when you're trying to pull out of your driveway and you can't see around this big truck. It's not a dually, it's just a truck, but it's causing so much of a vision problem that I can't see when I'm trying to pull out. And to me, it's a traffic hazard. Now, if we're supposed to park our vehicles on our driveways, why has he got a boat on his driveway, which hinders him from parking his truck there? Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me real quick, does the truck move? Has the truck been moved during the day or?
The truck does move occasionally, but it's there a lot.
Okay,
It's there quite a bit.
all right, thank you. Anyone else?
Mine's a little lighter side.
Okay,
I'm Sherry Hunter. I live at 117 Mesquite.
okay,
I know I brought it up probably a few months back about the rec center. We go swimming there in the morning.
okay,
They have the school there. They do have crossing guards there, but they're on this end. So what they have done is they put up barriers on the one side where the kids are supposed to parents are supposed to drop them off. And we got the traffic going in and out on one end now. It's the only way we can all get in. And I'm probably one of the younger ones there. I mean, we got 70, 80-year-old women that go in there every morning. We're there from anywhere between 6:30 and 7, and we're there till 10 o'clock. When we go in there in the morning, and I've gone at different times just to see, it's the same vehicles. Something has to be done. When these little ladies are getting out of their vehicles and they're parking on this side or on this side on the handicap side, they're coming this way and these cars are coming both ways because one's coming in, one's going out. Somebody's going to get seriously hurt over there. And I've sat in my truck and I have watched every day. It's this way. You have, you have an officer down there, but they're supposed to drop their kids off on that other side, and they don't. They're coming in this way now, and they wait at the end, drop their kids off. You got one coming out this way, you got two coming in this way, and it's just, and these little ladies are like, the other day, one of them just about got hit because when she backed out of her trunk to grab her bag, car came and she was like this in the car, and I watched it. You know, somebody's going to seriously get hurt over there if we don't get that taken care of.
You mean in the parking lot of the rec center?
In the parking lot at the rec center.
Okay.
Yeah.
you said an officer's there, is it a BISD or is it LJ?
I'm not really sure. I know there's a police car there.
Yeah.
So it's
And it's parked right where the school is, right in the median where the kids are supposed to go into into the school to line up, is where they're parked. But, I mean, it's
So they're dropping the
ridiculous.
kids off in the rec center?
They're dropping them
Yes.
off in the rec center,
Right.
and the parents are going both ways. I mean, and we can't, I've even done because I backed my truck in, and I'll go in, and they're honking at you because they want you to move, and all the more, I just go slow more.
Well,
Hey, if
we-
your kid's late for school, that's your problem.
I can give you a quick explanation of, how it's
Yeah, 'cause I'm not-
programmed
yeah.
to work. So at the intersection is a BISD officer, and then there's they'll have a teacher that also does the crossing of the children. We've blocked off both of those intersections there because what happens, there was too many parents turning in, and there were so many kids congregated in there, it was too dangerous for the kids, as they're, usually all the kids want to leave all at the same time, and there's a mad rush. And so with the cars moving in and out, it was too dangerous for them. So we've had to close off that intersection and direct parents who want to pick up their kids on the other side and not stand in line, and we can't stop them from doing that. It's a public parking lot, so they'll come into the other side, which I'll call that, it's the parking lot that is closest to the dog park on that side. So they'll come in there, and then
they'll come across the Civic Center and then park in that lot, but that's directed to all the traffic way. We've, worked with BISD and tried to encourage, the parents, and I believe they provide maps at the beginning of the year for them to try to line up down the length of
And they
the
do
entrance
so.
into the park. Some of them do that, and others will use the parking lot. But the main thrust is really, and why we've closed that is to really, for the safety of the children. And I just, right now, I meet with the chief again, I don't have a better solution, but it's really just,
Can
it's
I
that
stand out there in the
bottleneck.
morning and tell them, go around?
I would not advise it. We don't want anybody to get hurt.
I mean, I'd stand right there where they can go in and tell them, you're dropping kids off, you gotta
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, it's, we've battled this problem for 10 plus years, and right now this is the best solution that we've seen on the ground, but it's still not perfect.
All right, something else we can take a look into. All right,
you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on to presentations. We have a proclamation for Arbor Day. Come on and join me. It is long, it is long-winded. All right. This is a proclamation. I, Gerald Rosnowski, by the virtue of the authority vested in me as the mayor of the city of Lake Jackson, do hereby proclaim April 18th, 2022 as Arbor Day in the city of Lake Jackson. Whereas Keep Lake Jackson Beautiful will partner with Recreation Center to give away 100 free Arbor Day trees at the Easter egg hunt, giving all ages an opportunity to start young working with nature. And whereas the trees can reduce the erosion of our curious topsoil by wind and water, cut heat and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. Whereas during the months of the Great American Cleanup, there will be many opportunities for local citizens will have for making a difference in the environment of the city of Lake Jackson and bring attention to our trees. Whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. Whereas Lake Jackson has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue the tree planting ways. Now and therefore, we, the mayor and the city of Lake Jackson, City Council of the City of Lake Jackson, do hereby proclaim April 18, 2022 as Arbor Day in the city of Lake Jackson. There you go. All right, very good. Okay, we'll move on to item 2, TML Health Presentation Award, the City of Lake Jackson for 40-plus years of partnership.
And we have Timo here.
Oh, very good.
Honorable Mayor, distinguished council, thank you for your time and allowing me to come to speak for you today. I would take this time to recognize the City of Lake Jackson for your partnership with TML Health Benefits Pool. Actually, you've been with us for 42 years. We did this a couple years back because of COVID. We weren't able to do the presentations, but at this time, we have this beautiful award we'd like to present you, and thank you for your business, allowing the TML Health Benefits Pool to provide quality healthcare benefits to citizens all over the state of Texas for smaller cities, and gives you all the buying power and the quality of benefits for the employees at City of Lake Jackson like somebody at City of Houston would have, or City of Dallas. So again, thank you for your partnership, and thank you for your business, and look forward for another 40 years of partnership. So I've got this award to present to you guys.
Great. Thank you very much.
And a certificate. So
All right.
again, thank you for your partnership.
Well, I won't be around for another 40 years, but
I hope I'm not either. So I will leave
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Mayor, I just want to comment, our relationship, with the Benefits Bowl has been, we're a founding member, and, the small cities, as he had mentioned, were having a hard time, getting, good bids for insurance and stuff, and it was a way for, the smaller cities to pull together and buy out in the marketplace, and it's been a great relationship for us for this, 40-plus years.
Yeah, I've enjoyed working with you guys as well. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Next item we have is item 3 is annual police report by Chief Kibido.
Council, mayor, and staff. So once again, about this time every year, we come to give you all the numbers. It takes a little bit to calculate those numbers. Once January hits and all the numbers start falling into place, then we go back and get into a reporting format. So I've got staff here with me that's very supportive in creating this. Takes a lot of time and effort to prepare this annual report. So I'm very thankful to them for all the work. A special note with this year's, if you'll notice on the cover, and I know it's been made available to council as well, is Chief P.C. Miller. There was some talk a while back about naming the building after someone, and I think you can see in the chief's message, P.C. Miller is a perfect candidate for that. He was the chief when I came to work here. There's some things in here we'll cover in this slideshow. And it's a lot of slides in the report. I promise you they're not all in there, and I'll move them as quickly as possible because I know you have other city business to take care of. These are some of the things that Chief Miller accomplished in his lifetime here with the department and outside. He served our country twice. You can see he was in the armed forces on 2 separate occasions. I would venture to say he's one of the most successful rehires we had, because he did work with us for a short period of time before going back into DPS and then the military, served in Germany and then in Vietnam. And then fortunately for us, he came back to Lake Jackson, where he served for many years, one of the longest serving police chiefs, was the first detective for the department. He supervised in patrol, was one of the first from Lake Jackson, the first to go to the FBI Academy. Actually, his predecessor went to the county. He was one of the first in the county to go. First detective lieutenant, chief of police in '82, created the second in command position. '92, 911 came to the PD. Of course, Lake Jackson got that as a hub. Expanded dispatch from 5 at the time to 10, which is 12 now. Hired the first male dispatcher, Assistant Chief Brian Southbottom actually is still with us. Was part of the addition to the building in '94. Really ushered in the computer age. He was very instrumental, a detective at heart, which I kind of relate to that as well. That's part of the job that I've really liked, and moved us forward. And I think your choice to honor him was a good one. And I think that reflected in the chief's message. And our work this year is really dedicated to PC. So there's our org chart. A couple of things changed from last year in '21. We, of course, made the assistant chief over emergency operations. Admin sergeant spot was moved to a lieutenant spot. Lost one of the patrol officers' position, went down from 20 to 19. To create the additional detective sergeant position that helps out with our evidence. And that's worked really, really well. And we certainly appreciate the support council gave us on that. I believe that's all the changes there. So we move, and I know these charts can be a little bit busy. It's some of the things that we look at when we look at the work we're doing, the quantity of work that we're doing there. So even though it's kind of busy, it really is just calls for year. Or officer activity per year across the 3 districts that we break the town up into. So if you were to add those up, you get the total of officers' activity, and this is strictly with patrol. Doesn't include CID or even humane when it comes to calls for service. Something of note, I like to include the last few years. Fully staffed, that's what it looks like, 66,560 hours of work every year by patrol. Of course, if you're down a few, you can see here, just last year, we had 6,989 hours that were unmanned from, personnel resigning, retiring, moving somewhere else, or being promoted to a different department. And then I'd like to mention Patrol Sergeant Josh Cosme. He was just promoted to Patrol Sergeant, and this was 6 months ago, and he was deployed out to the border, and he's been there for 6 months. So we always keep him in our prayers. So that comes out to about 10% of the total man hours were unmanned, or 3.36 patrol positions throughout the year. Priority P calls, those are our most serious calls. That remains pretty consistent across the years. You can see this is a 5-year span. I think maybe in 21, the only difference there is a little more time dispatching the calls. We've had to incorporate health screening questions and things of that sort. But even with the last 2 years that we like to call COVID years, it's been pretty consistent. So that's a good response time, safely responding. You can see the accidents. Although they're creeping back up in 21, the good news is over here in 21, you'll see a 0 in the fatality mark and less injuries. So, we always hope that that's the goal of our traffic enforcement, right? To try and slow people down and have less accidents, especially those with injury or death. These are misdemeanor offenses, total traffic stops in blue there. You can see 2021 when things, we were a lot less proactive there. But things are starting to get back to normal. I think you can see the trend there. School zone speeding, same thing. School was out for quite some time. But even before that, this is how important those motors position are. We use them primarily for school zones. They're so much more effective because they're maneuverable there. We were down to 1 in 2019, I think 2 for only part of the year in 18. And then with hiring, we've had to use our motorcycle guys for training and to cover shifts as well. So that really hurts us. We're hoping to see next year in that 22 that we're back to enforcement and maybe hopefully some successful enforcement there. There's an amount of Class C warrants through our municipal court. Justice of Peace, this is Class Bs or above, the number of filings that we have and the warrants that are served. Offenses, this is strictly patrol again. Kind of an unkind trend there. You see family violence. All the assaults that we investigate, not all of them involve family violence, but we notate the ones that do. We don't like to see that number going up right there. Arrests by males and females. Although the numbers change, the ratio is surprisingly consistent. Total traffic stops by our traffic division. These are our motors. So we move to the criminal investigations division. We have an extremely successful criminal investigations division. This is in comparison to agencies in our area and across the state. Continue to be very successful. And I think we have a young, innovative group back in CID, but we also have a very proactive patrol division that works really well. They team up on calls and do a great job of collecting all the evidence we can and really doing their very best with every case that we get. Every year we include top 10 offenses. These are the most frequent. Definitely not our favorite. ID theft is kind of misleading there because there's a lot of them that we take here because the victims live here, but the offense actually originates outside of the jurisdiction. And we'll take that report, gather everything we can, and then send it off to the appropriate agency. That's that in a nutshell. Narcotics, now since 2011, we had a single narcotics officer, and they've been part of the Brazoria County Task Force for those 10 years. Since that time, in recent years, we've added a second in narcotics. And just this year, we kind of moved away from the task force for a while and participated more with the FBI's task force. And to focus, the whole goal was, and the concern was when we went to the task force, is to make certain that we took care of our own. You know, narcotics cases always go past jurisdictional lines. But we do want to make sure that we're doing our cases here in Lake Jackson and then follow it wherever it takes us. So they've left the task force partway through 2021. So those numbers will look a little different next year. But we're having some great success here in town with investigations and with the FBI task force. These are just some of the seizures and drugs that they've taken off the streets. Drugs, guns. Yeah. In a rush to get rid of it.
Yeah.
Uniform crime reporting, I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because I know it's not very exciting for sure, but I've been talking for a couple of years. Uniform crime reporting's been around since 1930s or so. And it's a way across jurisdictions, across states. It's a national way to compare crime from one place to the other, put very simply. So they have been working towards moving to a NIBR system, which these are 8 main offenses that they have here, Part 1 offenses. NIBRS expands that to 24. So if you think this is uninteresting, and it is a little bit if you look at the numbers, but it just gets a little confusing after a while. We've moved from UCR. I've been talking about that. I wanted to go ahead and include it so you could see what you've been seeing for several years now, many years. So this is kind of this is the key part of those crimes. These are crimes of violence that are included in UCR. So you can kind of see the trends across the years here. But now this is National Incident-Based Reporting System, or NIBRS. This is where everyone was mandated to move to as of 2021, which we did that a little early. So this is what NIBRS report looks like, and there's a couple of more slides of it. The last 2 columns won't mean anything yet because this is the first year. We started early in the end of 2020, so you'll see some columns in some numbers in the column last year to date reported, and a percentage of change between one year to the next. It's really not valid yet because we haven't had 2 full years. But it goes across, you can see a much larger range of offenses than UCR. And by the way, all this is full and it will be posted like it is with all the other annual reports. So anyone that's here in the audience that wants to go on and look at it, you can look at the years past in this as well.
Chief, will all
Yes.
cities across the nation go to this, or is it just
Yes.
every city in the nation?
Now, it's not, it never has been, even for UCR, that you're mandated to participate, but it does affect your ability to apply for grants and things of that sort. But yes, NIBRS is the system now that everyone uses. So our support services, we've covered patrol and we've covered CID. Support services is a lot of dispatch and some of our other support groups. As you can see, these are calls for service. This is not just patrol, but it's CID. That's a pretty good amount of responses, 48,057 for 2021. Fire as well as EMS, but you'll notice down there on the bottom, we also dispatch police and fire for Richwood. And their numbers really went up this year as well. So they stay extremely busy handling calls that come in. This is our priority Ps that we talked about, that we fashion we figure our response time for priority Ps. There were 635 of those that we responded to this year. These are records. That's another part of our support groups. They do a great job. They stay very, very busy. Different times of the year, requests for records can get kind of overwhelming, but this is the number of those. Alarm registration is another thing that mainly Sharon, the administrative secretary, handles. And you can see a trend there for residential. It's going down. There's the number of alarms that we register. Really think that that has to do with technology. There are people now that they don't hire a service to necessarily monitor an alarm and call. They get it on their phone. If something happens, they have their own security systems. I think that's a trend that'll probably continue. I know I put somebody to sleep. Probably more than one somebody. These are false alarms. Quite a few of those. Of course, there are sometimes when you get a call and they'll call you and disregard you to those. But there's a lot of time spent going to check, because we still will. Unless they give us a code or call us within a certain amount of time to disregard, we still have to go check. A little bit about Nick Ross here taking over after John Hogan. I think a lot of people were familiar with John. He was a great employee here, good guy. Nick took over and did a great job, and we've really worked hard on wearing two hats in that job, being the community relations person, but also being the trainer. And it really is overwhelming. Nick's done a wonderful job trying to carry that, wear both of those hats at one time. Yeah, everybody really liked to see the Grinch on the back this year. That was really neat. Yeah, holiday times are tough at the police department. If you notice some of these pictures, the people in this town are extremely supportive of what we do, and they're always bringing good cheer during the holiday season and really all year long, and we certainly appreciate. Makes doing the job that's not so easy worth it. Emergency operations, having an assistant chief over emergency operations has been great. I didn't realize that we would try to keep him so busy, but it has been. 2020 was extremely busy, but 21 as well. We had Hurricane Nicholas. Of course, the city's still doing having to manage the debris that was left over from that. Of course, we had the freeze, which we're just not used to that. And then also at the police department, we oversee animal control as well. So, yeah, I like that guy in the middle. I don't know what that is on the upper left, if anybody could tell me.
It's chicken.
You used to look like me in the morning when I had hair and I woke up, that's what I looked like.
Is it a chicken?
So animal control, now, there are 3 people that work extremely hard throughout the year here, and there's some of their numbers. We always like to see numbers when the number of bites go down. That's probably one of the most difficult things that they do, that and animal cruelty, and they do. Our investigations group helps them in investigating animal cruelty cases as well. But they stay very, very busy. This is some of their training. It's kind of tough to find training for them sometimes, but it's coming about. There's more and more. I like the FEMA training that they have. Prepares them for if you have to evacuate and what you do with the population that you have there. So, total number of almost 6,200 hours of reportable TCO training. That's not the entirety of training. Training for police is very, very, it's a big requirement, and it's hard to keep up with just the minimum number of hours that you have, but we do an excellent job on getting that and then some. And our focus on becoming a contract training provider is going to be, and is, now that we did this a couple of weeks ago, is going to be extremely helpful. Because a lot of the training that we had to pay and go outside for is now put on at our department. And we're preparing to really amp that up, especially this year now that we've got that status. Took us a few years to get there, but we're there. Part of the training program too, I see is, if you'll remember a few years back, council gave approval for the cadet program. We now have someone working with us that went and got his 4-year degree, went through the academy, and now he works for us, and he's doing an outstanding job. And all of his hours go to training as well.
He was an Explorer student too.
Yeah, he just, and that was his goal when he was done. He came to talk before he went, right before he got his degree and before he went to the academy, and that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to come work here. He's an outstanding young man. If you don't know him, you should meet him. He's really got his head on straight. He's a nice man. Staff, that's the number of hours there. Investigations, they're always, they're probably some of the most trained because at the time they get to investigations and become a detective sergeant, they probably had quite a bit of training in their history. But the training that they do get costs, and it's not put on as frequently. And so it's a little harder to get them hours, but they had 479 hours, patrol 4,200, and you can see the rest. So if you look across the year 2020 COVID, nobody put on in-person training. It was just very difficult to come about. We're trying to pick things up. Actually, that number 6,200 in 2021 is a very big number because for the 3 years that you see that are higher there, there were hours included for FTO training that should not have been included. They don't include them now. You only get to count that 160 hours of that 540 FTO program once in your career. And I know those numbers exist in there. So really, 6,200 in 2021 was outstanding. You had 3 officers, 2 telecommunicators get their basic, 1 telecommunicator with their intermediate, 3 officers moved up to an advanced certification, and 4 more, I must say, have their masters. This is just for this year. And right here, we're talking about becoming a contract training provider for T-Cole. These are some of the classes that we've held here. I think everyone recognizes that picture there. Really neat picture here in a minute of the Festival of Lights. We deployed 4 drones during Festival of Lights, and I think it was probably one of the most organized and well put off events that we've done.
Thank you again to you, Chief, and your whole department, your staff, for the great work that y'all do for the city, keeping our citizens safe. And also, all the work it takes to not only collect the data, but also put it into a data format where you can share and inform us on how the police department's doing. One question I had real quick is looking at, where is District 1? Because it looked like that's a place where we spend most of our resources.
District 1 includes jail responsibilities as well,
Okay.
so there's a lot of in-house things that go on there, back and forth, checking on prisoners and just taking care of things in the building. But it also includes a good portion of our business area. There, the mall, Walmart,
So it's all get
Walmart
your
and all that.
shoplifting and stuff,
Yep.
all the responses there. Okay.
Chief, another
Yeah.
question.
That's why you when you get District 1, you're like hanging your head down. If you get out of the building, you'll probably be sent very quickly.
I'm going to ask a question that I used to see citizens on patrol out there, and they haven't seen that in a while. So any plans to reinstitute that program?
Well, I know we got the new vehicle up and going, and I'm not sure what the level of, how many folks do we have now?
There's 9 active,
9 active.
but we have a CPA class that's fixing
Yeah.
to
Okay.
And I am looking forward to seeing that pick up a little bit more. Again, 20 and 21, I mean, we really got back to being more proactive, really just April. We did what we could to manage exposures and such during that time. And they were that group as well. So it's a good point, and I'll just make a point to look for it.
COVID kind of put a damper on that for a while, did it?
It did. It did.
Any other questions of the chief?
No,
Counsel?
but I'd like to say something.
Yep.
I lived around this city in and out for 62 years. I've been in the Marine Corps. I worked for the Texas Department of Corrections. I don't think there's a finer group of law enforcement folks that other in this city. Everybody has their opinion, I respect that. But I know a lot of people in this town, and I guarantee you 99 and 9/10% of them keep doing what you're doing in your funny uniforms and your badges. Because when the push comes to shove, y'all will be there. And until you need them, you can talk all the trash you want. But I guarantee you, thank you very, very much. Okay?
Certainly appreciate it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief.
I won't need them.
Good, that's your problem.
All right. We'll move on to declaration of conflict of interest. This is where the opportunity for members of City Council to declare any conflict of interest on any agenda item. Is there any kind of conflict to declare?
No, sir.
Not hearing any, we'll move forward to consent agenda. We have consent agenda item 1, approval of minutes of April 4, 2022. Accept board and commission minutes, planners. We have item 3 is approve a second addendum to interlocal agreement with Velasco Drainage District for storm sewer videoing and ditch grading. And item 4 is award bid for Gulf Coast renovations to RGR. Excuse me, ma'am. Let me be quiet, please. RGR Golf Services in the amount not to exceed $132,854. Do I have a request from council to remove an item for further discussion?
Move for approval of consent agenda 1 through 4.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. We'll move on to regular agenda. We have item 1, which is to discuss and consider allowing residents to keep chickens in the city of Lake Jackson. We had, as of the last council meeting, we had made a request for Chief Kibido to go back and get some data for us, so he went and polled the different cities for some information.
We did, and after a lot of a really good discussion the last time this was up before council, we were tasked with finding some information. We put that information, do you have the spreadsheet with us?
Here you go.
No?
Here you go.
Okay, it's in the packet, and I have it here too. So I think what you see is, there's a lot of other cities that are doing it. They have either limitations for the number, but I think the most significant probably are the property restrictions, just to make sure everyone's privacy and such is taken into consideration. But it's a variety, but I think it's pretty consistent across the ones that we polled. Do we ever get all of Freeport? Does this include all of Freeport? We don't have, because of the NA's there. There is information there, but they didn't respond completely. But we do have some square footage restrictions as well.
Yeah, the one thing that I just wanted to note,
There it is.
when you read the chart, and the chief and I talked briefly this morning, and I noticed sometimes looks can be deceiving. So when you see a city that says, yes, they allow chickens in there, you have to really look at that property section there on the number of feet. So I'll, because it just clarifies it a little bit. So if you look at Clute, Freeport, Pearland, and Sweeney, those restrictions are so strict that it practically probably prohibits them from being in a subdivision. 150, so just to give you, a feel for, in our, the common dimension of a lot.
Ma'am.
Goodbye.
Okay, thank you.
The common dimension of a lot in Lake Jackson is probably 70 feet. So in some of these restrictions, it still allows them, but it probably takes them out of a subdivision. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if that has, that could have a sway on the number of calls and stuff, But I just wanted to, make sure that says yes, but there's probably large swaths of the town that they're not, they're prohibited from being in just because of those dimension requirements.
And whatever they've done, really, if you look at the number of complaints, it really hasn't, and if anybody's wondering, the police department supervises humane, so this would be something that would fall mainly into our and code enforcement as far as what manpower and stuff that we would have to expend to enforce this and take action if there's complaints and what have you. So, we're still looking and working to maybe even expand this if we needed to incorporate more cities into the study. But these are cities in our area and what they're doing.
Okay,
So
anybody? Yeah, go ahead.
I took a little bit of time. I read through actually all of these cities. I looked at all of their ordinances and read through, and Modesto's right, Chief's right. There are property restrictions in some places. But I spent a little bit of time actually contacting each city. Some places have a city manager, some people, some places the PD handles it, just to get a little feedback that they've lived with these ordinances for a period of time. And I will say across the board, the overall comment was we haven't had a big chicken problem. I did get some very good feedback that if we were to consider doing an ordinance, that there are some things that we may consider just being very specific about. There was the no roosters comment. Be very specific in your definitions of what can and can't be allowed, and also, like Modesto had referred to, is be very clear in terms of property restrictions and coop sizes and all that. So, just think that in our area there is potential to do this in a responsible manner to move forward.
Well, things, all this sticks out in my mind is down, be sure have a reasonable amount of distance between chickens and neighbors.
Yes,
And
and that was pretty consistent on the ones that had property.
like what city manager, I think, was saying, I don't see where that fits. I mean, Lake Jackson is, you barely have enough distance between houses. Some places have air conditioning, so
Yeah.
that's the one thing that sticks out in my mind about the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, certainly some people, just like a swimming pool in some properties, some people in Lake Jackson want a swimming pool, and we can't do it because of setbacks and easements and property sizes. So, I mean, there are a multitude of things that not everybody can have due to property size restrictions.
Yeah, one of the challenges that you have, though, is just like with this and other things, is that if you go over there and you put and you say that we would allow them and that we would put restrictions for them to be allowed, the challenge that we have as a city and city government is that somebody in the neighborhood will see that, or they may visit a neighborhood and the neighborhood's allowed to have them because they have the square footage to do it, the space. They'll go home and they'll decide, well, I can go put one in because they've got one there.
Sure.
So the next thing we have is we have to deploy employees out there to go tell these people that, no, you can't put that out there, even though you put the expense, you're gonna have to remove your chickens.
Right.
And so that's one of the challenges, is that, it's just one of several that you have whenever you move forward with something like this, is that you set yourself up for other complications, I guess.
Well, I mean, I'm confident in the people of Lake Jackson and our city council to craft a well-crafted ordinance. I mean, because the same problem can be said of, oh, my neighbor's got room to do a storage building. You know, they're doing a 200 square foot one. They don't know it can only be 200 square foot, so they build a 300. I mean, that happens again in a lot of different aspects that we have to deploy city staff. And that was one of the things that we discussed a permit fee to help cover those costs. I mean, there's always going to be challenges. It doesn't matter what it is, but just across the board in our area, chickens, and the fact of the matter is the chickens are already here. So all the problems that we think we're going to have, the chickens are already here in Lake Jackson. So, I mean, and I don't think we've been overrun just yet. I just think that there's a way to give some guidance to move forward to create an ordinance that does suit Lake Jackson.
But again, like I said before, is that the city of Lake Jackson is a master planned community. It's a master planned residential community. It's not a master planned residential livestock community. So again, a lot of our properties subdivisions aren't conducive to allowing, because, again, because of the restrictions that we would probably put in place to allow this. And so it's just, again, we have to look and see what is best for the community as overall.
Lake Jackson was actually one of the first master plan communities in the state of Texas.
Right.
Is that correct? So, and I mean, I think that's true. We do have a lot of residential homes and subdivisions that you're not gonna have a lot of chickens, but I hardly think that if we pass a chicken ordinance allowing them, that every person in the city of Lake Jackson is gonna go out and get chickens. Probably the ones that would be interested in this ordinance probably already have them.
So let me ask you another
And-
question.
yeah.
Since you say that there are already chickens in the city of Lake Jackson, so we go and we pass an ordinance. An ordinance disallows those people that have chickens already. So what's your approach to address that?
I mean, it's just like any other ordinance that we pass regarding anything, whether it's pets, whether it's, property buildings or anything else, we have the decision to make of, do they get grandfathered in? Or do we, take action, give them time to comply? So, I mean, it's just, those issues are not specific to chickens. I mean, what happens if we've had several people come up to city council saying, hey, we need to limit the number of pets people can have, period. So if we address that, what do we do with people that already have more pets than, we say that you should be able to have? It's just not a chicken problem.
Well,
I mean,
the other issue is that to go back to the chicken issue, is if we would pass the ordinance and there would be no grandfathering of the people that have them because they're already in violation of an ordinance that we have in effect today.
Sure.
So in theory, is if you knew who these individuals were, you could inform code enforcement, and we would have to go out there, since code enforcement's made aware of it, and they'd have to go enforce the current code.
Sure.
Okay. Just excuse me, this is our time for us, our discussion. You'll have a chance to comment in a second.
Okay, I've never done this before.
Okay, yeah. So, anyway, so that's just one of the issues that we have with it. So, Council, is there anybody else that has questions or comments right now?
I have a comment, chickens is, I've heard requests from both sides of it, people who are opposed and people who are wanting it. And I think personally that we ought to be able to come up with some kind of ordinance that allows people who want to have chickens in a controlled fashion, agreeing to an ordinance. Again, this is about people, citizens who want what they want, who live in Lake Jackson. It's not about what I want. So I don't want to say what I'm looking for. I'm just conveying what I've heard from some citizens, which are both sides of the story. And so,
I was on the same line with that. Mayor might want chicken, I'm his neighbor. I might not want chicken.
Mayor might want dogs, and you don't want dogs.
We're not talking about dogs, we're talking about chickens.
It should
Okay.
be about what the people want. Exactly.
Well, you gotta think about your property ends
Yeah.
where mine begins and vice versa. So what you do on yours can affect me. Yeah, I think I have something to say about it. Well,
Right.
you got your opinion, I got mine, okay.
I'm not saying disregarding your
I'm
opinion. I'm just
I'm
saying,
throwing that out for discussion. What I like, as long as it doesn't affect my neighbor on either side, great, I could, whatever. But when I step, what I'm doing affects you or whatever, that's where the flag goes up.
no, I understand that. And what I'm proposing is not free for all, proposing it to be in a controlled fashion. So, if you don't want chickens, there are reasons why you don't want chickens. So if the ordinance is written that it would not bother you, if you have big enough property that if they can set back 200 yards, I'm just throwing numbers out there, don't hold me to numbers
We're
here.
We're talking residential, Renee. And you
Well-
got 200 yard of property. You could have an elephant out there. No, that wouldn't bother me. But when the yards that we got now, some houses barely have room for an air conditioner. I've got a friend that lives over on Walnut. He can show his neighbor whatever. And it affects it. The smell, I'm just saying, what I do on my property, if it affects you, that's not good.
Well, I understand that, that's why council needs to come up with,
200-yard property? That's,
no, I'm not
Okay.
arguing that, I'm just saying, you can design the ordinance that pleases most of the population. And that may mean that 90% of Lake Jackson, you can't have chickens. So if you live in the, some subdivision, older part of town where there are R1 lots with a huge, fenced backyards, maybe those people can have chickens.
Name me a place in Lake Jackson that has 200-foot front and back. I mean, maybe out at Timber Creek or whatever. You don't have property like that. Walnut, where I live
Well-
over there, you don't have, that doesn't fit.
So I live in a 0 lot line. The city just came out and made my neighbor take their brick wall down so that their bedroom window now looks into my backyard, so that there's an egress in the bedroom. That was a city-led project, and that affects me. But sometimes that's the way it works. And furthermore, I live in a 0 lot line, but I live in a corner. So there are exceptions to that. Yeah, there's a lot of small lots. My neighborhood, 0 lot lines, the swimming pool companies won't even come out and talk to you. They don't even want to consult you because your yard's not big enough. Then that's okay. So you don't get chicken.
Well, that's my point. He's talking about 200 foot,
He
300.
just threw a random number out there, which is what he
Well,
said.
he threw it out there and I'm addressing it. Okay?
Yep.
All right.
Again, I'm not trying to tell you my I'm just saying,
All I'm saying is, the lots in Lake Jackson aren't conclusive to chickens. as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you there,
I'm only
okay?
one vote. That's
But,
my
I
opinion.
agree with you, I'm not disagreeing with you. So make it, you have to have 150 foot, so that excludes 90% of the neighborhood, so it does. But then, the other 10% who want chicken can have chickens.
Why can't they have them if they've got the property size that fits the ordinance that we create?
That's exactly the point.
Matt,
So-
you have something to say?
Well, I'm looking here at the table, and I see a couple that are 100 foot from any residence and a couple that are 150, and then the Pearland one is a half-acre minimum, and I find myself wondering how many houses in Lake Jackson are on half-acre lots? Because if it's a handful, then it seems kind of silly
I'll
to
let Mr.
adopt an
Mr. Gary,
ordinance.
can you come up?
I mean, there's bigger lots out in Timber Creek, and there's big, long, skinny lots on Old Angleton Road. But I'm not familiar. It's just not coming out. It's not coming to my mind right now. Any other places other than those two that would fit in Pearland's ordinance?
The Timber Creek area, of course, is one. And we also have the estates down Old Angleton Road.
Right.
That's the other one. Beyond that, even our R1, which is a larger lot, single-family lot that we have, make it, and there are several in the area that are that variety that equate to about probably a third to 4/10 of an acre. Half acres are
So,
pretty small.
Right.
I'd say probably 75% of the city is R2.
Yes, 75% is.
So those are usually 70.
That's 75% of
those are
residential,
usually-
or 75% of the whole city is zoned that way?
No, I'm sorry.
Residential.
75%
residential.
75% of residential
Okay.
lots in Lake Jackson are R2.
R2.
And
And
that's
then there's-
usually a 70-foot wide.
8,400 square feet.
Yeah.
So it's about a fifth of an acre.
And that was my point.
Third
is
of an
like,
acre at
if
the
you
most.
did want to look at an ordinance for guidance and you were thinking of allowing it citywide, you'd have to tend towards looking at the Angleton ordinance versus looking at Clute, Freeport, or Pearland, or Sweeney. Because if you adopt any of those, probably most likely only 15% of the homes would be able to have chickens.
So my question is say that's how we would create an ordinance where you've got these minimal property requirements, and say that only fits 15% of Lake Jackson residents. What does it hurt to allow those 15% of the residents to have chickens if they even want chicken? What does it hurt to have an ordinance that allows that in place?
Well, it goes back to the whole idea, again, of being a master plan community, and that everyone that's walked in that owns property here, that purchased property here. They purchased property whenever we had an ordinance that stated that no livestock is allowed in the city of Lake Jackson. And so now we're wanting to change that to allow livestock in the city of Lake Jackson. And there are a lot of people that are not interested in making that change. They haven't been vocal about it because on the different formats and platforms that are out there to be vocal on is once they step up and do say that they are in a disagreement with having chickens, they get dressed down by people on those social medias. And so you don't have people that, people have learned that they can look at a post on social media or any kind of format like that to, on a questionnaire of, they can look and see what the flavor of the comments are, and they can choose real quick is, should I make a comment or not? And so people choose to pick up the phone and make phone calls still. And I personally have not had anybody pick up the phone call and tell me that they were for having chickens. The people that have talked to me have said that they don't feel like it's a good fit for, again, the way that the city is designed and the city, and what they invested in the community for.
Right.
It's to-
And I think there's probably a pretty good number both ways, because the same argument you're making about social media, about people saying, you know, they don't want to say I'm not pro-chicken, you got the same number of people not wanting to say I'm for chickens because they're getting the same pushback. And it's just, I mean, there's a reasonable way to do this. And for somebody to say, I bought into this master plan community in 1975 and expect no changes as the times change. I mean, the next agenda item, somebody wants bees and rabbits.
Right.
Because times have changed.
So what has changed? What has really changed?
So, society has changed. People, and I said this the first time we talked about it, people are very, I'm not sure what the word is, they're at unrest right now with how things are. I mean, I put that little thing on there, the cost of eggs has gone up 11.4% over the last year. Poultry's gone up 9 to 12%. I'm just saying, people want to be able to be more self-sufficient.
And I can understand that, but at the same time, we've lived through beef shortages, we've lived through chicken shortages, we've lived through egg shortages, we've lived through avocado shortages. We couldn't get guacamole at restaurants because of avocado shortages, because the cartel took over the avocados in Mexico and weren't letting them come across. So there's none of these perceived days of Armageddon we've lived through, and we'll continue to live through them.
And so
The other thing is if, you know, there was some comments of is that earlier was that, you know, I want to be able to provide for my family if times really get tough, you know, and if times really get that bad, is the last place you want to be is sitting in a community of 28,000 people. You're going to want to pack your stuff up and go somewhere else because you can't feed those masses. You can feed your small family unit, but you can't feed masses. Your supply chains, the supply chain of the supermarkets, last time I was involved in a supply chain research is that the supply chain is 3 days. After 3 days, people in large cities start not having food. And again, you're not going to want to, your chicken pen in the back of your yard is not going to save your family.
So has anybody ever heard of a victory garden?
Yes,
Has anybody ever heard of a chicken in every pot?
yes.
So we survived through these things with our government actually encouraging people to have these things, to have backyard gardens, to be able to be a little bit more self-sufficient.
And if you really went and did the study, you would find out that that was also a big part of that is to give people something to do, to feel like they're doing something to improve their lives. But at the end of the day, it benefited the community as a whole very little. So Anything else on discussion with council, and then we'll have comments from the community? All right. Is there anybody from the audience that would like to speak? Yes, sir.
Do you seriously think when the founding fathers were sitting there getting the Constitution together, they would be rolling over to hear you guys sitting here telling the people whether they can have a chicken or not? This is ridiculous. I've been recording cops in Lake Jackson for about 3 years now, right? I have never been on a chicken call. Like the lady said, we don't have a chicken problem. Why is my mic muted? Hello, hello. Did I? There we go. We don't have a chicken problem. Why is government get involved in it? Why not, if we don't have a chicken problem, let's rescind the ordinance that has anything to do with chickens. Just and in true government fashion, you're gonna want these people, us people, because the rich people, they're gonna have plenty of land, right, to have their chickens. Us poor people can't have the chickens. Thank you. It's ridiculous.
Yes, ma'am. And please state your name and address, please.
Hi, I'm Nancy Randolph. I live at 123 Lily. And I don't want,
Yeah.
and I'm short. I don't want chickens next door to me. I don't want them behind me. I lived in an unincorporated area growing up. It was a perfect place for chickens and pigs and cows and horses and all that. When I retire, I'm probably going to move somewhere where I can have goats because I really want baby goats. But I'm not going to ask for those things in the city of Lake Jackson because I live in the city of Lake Jackson for a specific reason. And that's because there's some amount of control over what happens in the houses next door to me. I like living in a community like that. That's where I wanted to raise my kids. That's where I bought a house. Lived in a house that we purchased here for 29 years. Lived in this area all my life. I think the thing that bothers me is, I don't want the smell next door. My husband grew up, he can be here tonight, but he grew up with a house next door that had a whole bunch of chicken coops. And he said the smell was atrocious. And it was something he had to deal with all the time growing up. He said, great fertilizer, had to mow the yard a whole lot, but he hated the smell. And his concern is he doesn't want to live with chickens living next door to us either. We have an SPCA that is full of animals that our citizens of Lake Jackson can't seem to take care of. They can't take care of dogs, they can't take care of cats, and we routinely have to go and figure out ways to empty the SPCA. I think there's some people here that would really take care of the birds if they had them. But I also know there's the same number of people that won't bother to take care of them, or it'll be something fun for a little while, and then when it's not fun anymore, they got a whole bunch of birds. And what are they going to do with them? Who's going to take them? Does our SPCA set up to take birds? Or are we going to euthanize them all? I just don't see, I think that there's plenty of unincorporated areas around here that people could go and have, if they wanted to have chickens, they could move there. The other piece of it is, there's the farmer's market. There's a lot of people that make their money from selling eggs. I know several people that's part of their income. Support our local citizens. Buy the eggs from these folks that have farms and whatever, and they're trying to sell their eggs. You get the antibiotic treated eggs. You can have all of that. If you want your kids to learn about farming, I know several people who have farms that would love to have people come help clean chicken coops and pick up cow manure and all the other things that go on a farm. I think that's a wonderful experience for every kid. I just don't want it next door. So, thank you much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Karen.
Yes, ma'am. Again, I'll have to ask you for your name again.
Again. Ronnie Mendes. I live on Sycamore. We don't have a house that's in a zero lot line. We have a house that was built back in the 60s. I think it's probably on the larger end, but not as big as some of the houses that are in other areas. We have a 7-foot fence around our backyard, and I would love to have chickens, but I wouldn't want to keep more than 4. Chickens are not livestock, they're fowl. I have a friend who lives in the city of Austin, North Austin. She lives in a house that has a smaller yard than me. Across the street from her was a lady who had not only chickens, but ducks. And she sold her duck eggs and she sold her chicken eggs to people in the neighborhood. 4 chickens are not going to create a poop problem. A poop problem would be, it would be a flock of chickens, 50 or more. 4 to 6 chickens aren't going to do it. They're not going to cause a problem. That said, I really think that the enforcement of some of our laws are not even. You see people who have trash in their yards. You see houses that look like they're falling down. You see right next to them a big, beautiful brick house. And does anybody come out and make anybody move the trash that's in the yards of the people that are not keeping their standards up of their landscaping, etc.? We had one house on our street down at the corner where it curves into and goes into Pin Oak. And it was horrible. I've lived here for 41 years, and that house was a trash heap. An ordinance officer finally came out and did something about it. We had a black truck that we had parked on our pad. And a neighbor across the street didn't like the looks of our black truck. She complained. And we had an ordinance officer come out and cite us for having an inoperable vehicle. We had to go get it taken care of. That happened 3 times. Well, when a vehicle goes out, you can't always get it to the repair shop that day. Sometimes it takes a couple days. And just because this lady didn't like the looks of it, she complained. They came right out on us. But I still see houses on Centerway and on some of these other streets that nothing has been done about the trashy look of them. If you've got chickens in your backyard and you've got your laws are equally enforced and evenly enforced, then they can check and find out if these chickens are being taken care of, if they're causing a problem with the neighbors, if there is an odor. And if you don't have roosters, you're not going to have them waking up some of these shift workers that have to go to Dow at God knows what time in the morning. So I really don't see a problem with it myself. And like I said, I wouldn't mind having 4 chickens, but I wouldn't want any more than that. Because you get more than 6, yeah, you're going to have a poop problem.
All right.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah.
Hello, my name is Winter Pantoja. I live on 104 Walnut Street, and it's a pleasure to be here to address everybody today, and I really appreciate you listening to, whatever I have to say. I would someday really like to have chickens. I don't feel at this point with my munchkins that that's the best setup because we have plenty of critters already. But the reason we're in Lake Jackson, not only because it's absolutely beautiful and I like this, the majority of, the city and, the ordinance and things like that, but because we don't flood, at least not where we are. The majority of Lake Jackson, doesn't flood. And it's within our means, and it was within our budget. Critters are something I want to incorporate into their lives. Responsibility for those things, and they're learning that with other animals that aren't prohibited, but they don't get to learn, like the kinds of things you learn when you deal with rabbits or you're dealing with bees or chickens. What I'd really like to see is if you guys do implement an ordinance. I'm in one of those properties that's kind of the medium. I'm not huge, but I'm not tiny either. And maybe a more reasonable restrictions than some of the ones up there, which pretty much makes it impossible to have, you know, even if it's a small amount, 1, 2, 3 chickens would be really cool. Also, things like having a privacy fence, you know, to keep, you know, it from bothering the neighbors, things like that. They have a really low noise index. But all of y'all know about the duck pond, right? That we have here in Lake Jackson. And lots of ducks and poop. And a little pond, and my children absolutely love to go there. It's one of their favorite things, and every once in a while we'll find an egg that's not fertile, you know, and it's a wonderful adventure, and as far as I know, it's not too large of an issue. I've never heard anything about it, and I do know people who have chickens, even though I don't, but they're good at managing their relationships with their neighbors, that way that nobody ever has a problem and nobody ever finds out. I'm not that person. You can see right into my backyard. But I got eggs from some of my friends. So I would really love chickens, and I would really love that you consider, you know, letting us have some chickens. Maybe not a lot, but some. It would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Danny Terrell, 223 Xenia. I grew up on a farm. I've been around animals my whole life. Chickens can be stinky, but not 5 or 6 chickens. All you have to do is maintain them. And one thing that hasn't been discussed here is the benefits of chickens. And it don't just come with eggs. The benefits of chickens are they eat spiders, they eat anything. They will eat all the little nuisance pests that go around your house. They're not going to bark at you. They're not going to chase you down and bite you. They're not nuisance. As a matter of fact, I'm curious to ask the question, how many of you people have ever actually had chickens?
Me.
1, 2? Okay. There's a lot more to having chickens. I don't care anything about big pit bulls. I have 2 little Shih Tzus, so I love my dogs. And I'm not going to tell my neighbor you can't have a dog. I want to keep my dogs, you know. So dogs are pets. Cats are pets. We see cats roaming around all over the place, and even in our neighborhood. But chickens are not. They're kept in a pen. If you have roosters, guineas, peacocks, you're looking for noise. But chickens don't make a lot of noise. They squawk in the morning when they're laying their eggs, and that's about it. They got fertilizer. They're great pets. You would be surprised. Chickens have personalities, and they're fun to be around. They're comical. So anyway, I don't see it happening just by the look of what's going on here. But these people are not going to go away. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep coming. We're going to keep coming. Until finally one day we get somebody up here that says, you know what, they're right. You know, government is very controlling in all aspects, whether it's federal or local. Government can be controlling. We're just asking you to give us some freedom here and a chance to have a few chickens. Yes, look at the Richwood one. That seems to be a very reasonable start right there. You guys are smart people. You wouldn't be up here if you weren't. Y'all can come up with a plan and figure out a way to do this. I know you can, and make it right for everybody. And I promise you, if you were my neighbor, not only would you not hear and have a problem with the chickens, there wouldn't be any smell, but you'd really enjoy my eggs.
Let me ask you about the Richwood one, actually, because you mentioned it, and it's the only one up there that has neighbor approval or disapproval on it at the bottom. What do you think about the concept of letting your neighbor thumbs up or thumbs down your chickens?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry, you need to come back to the mic.
What was your question?
Well, so my question is, I mean, he's noting the smaller properties and those kinds of things, but then And I had seen earlier that Richwood is the only place on that list at the very bottom that requires your neighbor to approve your chickens.
Well,
And so I think
just
that sort of
because-
offsets the, but I had never.
I'm not thinking, I would not like that, but because not everybody gets along with their neighbor.
Right.
You know, my neighbors wouldn't have a problem with it, but many neighbors might. So, and the 7.5 feet that's a standard amount of easement anyway, wouldn't you think? For anything. I just know chickens, and I mean, I wouldn't want my next door neighbor having pigs or cows or horses or any of that stuff. But a chicken is not they're not destructive, they're not noisy, and like I said, they're never gonna bark at you.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, as you just said that you're okay with chickens, but you're not okay with goats and pigs and all this other kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that whenever people talk about property rights, there's a yeah, but in there. Everybody's got a yeah, but. Yeah, but I wouldn't want goats or whatever next door. So we've got to look and see what's the best fit for our community as a whole. And that's the only reason why we make the decisions we make. We look and see what's best for our community because everybody's got a yeah, but. So that's.
Well, the only thing I got to say is yeah, but a lot of us don't like pit bulls and things like that, but we can't. We're not going to change the laws that says somebody can't have a Doberman.
Well, because we cannot do that. We cannot dictate law by breed. Is that correct?
That's right. That's a state law that cities cannot dictate which breeds are allowed or not allowed.
But they can say no dog, right?
No.
Can't say no dogs?
I don't know.
Luckily, pigs, cows, goats, and chickens are all different breeds, so we don't really come up against that.
Chickens are pets, in my opinion, as much as they are a producer of eggs. So, thank you for your time.
I will say, did everybody have the opportunity to look at the Angleton? And I know we talked about the Angleton ordinance last time we discussed that, and I only go back to it because it was very specific, very well written. And these people that have concerns about their neighbors having chickens are very valid, very legitimate. And that was the thing I personally liked about the Angleton ordinance. It addressed that. It put a tremendous amount of responsibility on the owner. In terms of smell, disinfecting, coop materials. I mean, it was very specific. Limited the number of chickens, no roosters. So I just think there's a way to do this intelligently that suits our community.
But you're assuming that if we choose not to go and allow, that we're not addressing this intelligently.
No. I'm just saying that there are solutions. There's always going to be problems to any topic that we're talking about. And I just feel like sometimes we run up against a problem, it's tough to find a good solution. I just don't think this is that topic. I think there's an easily attainable good solution.
If we allow chickens today, what's gonna come up next week?
Well, maybe we need to have the conversation, and we can say yes or no.
Maybe, I'm saying, what are we gonna do when that happens?
Well, we have the conversation and say
Okay,
yes or
all
no.
right, Okay.
Any other comments from the audience? Yes, sir.
Everybody shows up for chickens, nobody shows up for the budget meeting. What's going on?
My name is Jim Miller. I live at 237 Acacia. And I got to say, I'm for chickens myself. The reason being, this guy just said all of it. They're good for pets. They can be good for bug control. I've been with my granddaughter since the day she was born. And I would take her out in the middle of the night with a flashlight and look through the yard. And you wouldn't believe all the wolf spiders down inside there. Them chickens like eating them wolf spiders. I'm here to tell you for the simple reason I've had chickens in my backyard. I had 237 Acacia. I've been there for 34 years. I was 30 years retired Dow operator, shift worker. They never woke me up. I didn't even know it was against the law, to be honest with you. I really didn't. Because at one point, I swear, I looked in city ordinances back around 2008. I could have sworn I seen an ordinance in there that said if they were 50 foot away from your residence and everything else. And it wasn't 3 or 4 years, 5 years later on, I looked in there, poof, I couldn't find it no more because it was way back in the archives somewhere. Well, we had a half a dozen chickens. Rhode Island Reds, that great eggs. My granddaughter had every single one of them named. Two of them were named Sally. How that happened, I don't know. But you talking about people raising chickens in close quarters or what, far away off? Folks, this is one of your new high dollar residents right here. See how close them houses are together, each other? Them $250,000 houses right there. Y'all want to pass that around and look at it? You can chuck a rock over and lob it over and hit the house next door to it. Here's another guy I know. He's had chickens for 40 years. Same place, right outside his back door. Our chickens was within probably 20 foot of the door. Got a 6-foot chain link fence. I clipped the first 5 feathers on each side of the wing, just one side of the wing, so they couldn't fly. And the birds would wake me up about just right after sunrise. I'd go out and let them out. I knew they would be back in the coop every evening. And I'd go out there and shut the gate on them and everything. I know there's a few things I'm trying to think of. I just kind of get nervous when I'm up here like this. Neighbors thoroughly love the eggs. Never had a complaint one against any neighbors. I'll be talking about rabbits here in a little bit. And the meat from rabbits is great. People have a great demand for it. But I'm going to get further into that later on. We had, our children was 4-H, FFA and everything else. We've had rabbits at our house before. It was a rabbit hutch before it was a chicken coop. And we would put shavings down in the bottom, keep it clean, had an on-demand feeder for them to go in, get out, and everything else, plus the bugs they ate and everything. It was great. Had one rooster. And once I found out his rooster, I took him out to Buddy Mine's house over in Sweeney. And what he did with it from there, I don't know. Because ain't much meat on them kind of big little skinny things anyways. You had different breed of chickens to make them roasters. So, I don't know. A lot of it's got to do with cleanliness. And more often than not, you talk about government making all the laws and everything else. I never knew anything about Lake Jackson being what kind of city footprint.
Master plan.
Master plan city. I never knew anything about that. I've been in and out of this area since '65.
Right. Well, master plan means is that you lay out the way the city is going to be laid out, and it's also because we have zones, we have zonings and ordinances. Like you go, for example, like Houston. Houston is not a master plan community. It has no zoning. So you can have a bar next door to your house.
Huh. Okay.
But you can't have that in Lake Jackson.
Well, I can understand why. But anyways, it's just, don't speculate on what other people will think, pros or cons or anything else. Give it a try first. Then get your feedback and go from there. That's the way I see it. You know, like I said, cleanliness is a good thing. Neighbors always love the eggs. They're good on your bugs. I can't find any cons against no cotton picking chickens. You know, once you clip the wing, they can't jump a fence. I've got a neighbor next door to me. That pit bull got out 3 times. And I had to kick the fire out of that dog to get him off of me and everything else. And finally, the 3rd time, but one of them got on my daughter, and 2 of them was on me. And finally, I called the pound on the darn pig, and she would not answer the door. Put up with the pit bulls jumping on your tail end and everything else. I guarantee you, these chickens ain't going to do that.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
So anyways, I appreciate y'all's input. Y'all, for gosh sake, let's give it a try anyways.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Good evening, everybody.
Evening.
Chase Blanchard on Portulaca Street. If I can ask what number we're at on the petition? Nobody's asked that. 1,175. So just for reference, when it's not a presidential election year, 1,175, you guys average between 850 and 1,200 votes to put you in your seats. It's 1,175 signatures.
Where are those signatures from?
It says a lot.
Where are they from?
I just got it handed to me, so.
Where are they
The
from?
point,
Excuse me.
can I make my point, please,
Yeah,
sir?
go ahead.
Well,
My point is being, I get it. We're not gonna make everybody happy.
Sir, you're supposed to be addressing
Oh, I'm
council.
sorry. We're not gonna make everybody happy.
Yeah.
We live in a very diverse community, a diverse world. Whatever you guys do, there's gonna be people mad, and there's gonna be people sad and angry, but we've got to go with the majority. That's the only way to make it fair. So that's the reason I brought this number up, is that's a lot of people compared to what vote in our city. So I think we need to take that into consideration.
And I just think the mayor's point on that is that last municipal election was 1,694 people came to vote. And so if all of those people are from Lake Jackson, yes, that's a significant
Right.
number because they've got a say in what goes on in Lake Jackson. So I do understand this point as well. If you have, 1,000 of those are from Houston, they're really irrelevant to our conversation. But having looked through it, the majority of them are from Lake Jackson.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Is that a list that people have voted?
It's
It's a petition.
Is that a list of people that voted?
And we can do, you guys can do that. You can put it up to a
That's not my
vote.
question. My question is, did y'all go out to the neighborhoods and get signatures?
I didn't do it, sir. I don't
Did
know.
y'all? Okay. You just didn't take that number from what's in the paper about people that voted. That's what I'm getting at.
Jennifer
See what I'm
Ducote.
talking about?
Yes, sir. Jennifer Ducote at 407 Dogwood Street. I was going to, after my community got up and spoke to you guys, I was going to explain this as well as everything else.
Did
But
you go neighbor to neighbor and get signatures?
some
on the
was from
street?
neighbors, some was from petitions online, some were from the Lake Jackson's Farmers Market, some were from the Peach
that
Street.
answers my
Yes, sir. This was a community effort. I was just giving everyone else a chance, and then I'll explain everything to you.
At first, I got the impression was that was the number of people that voted.
Oh, no,
I
no,
mean,
no,
you
sir.
answered
No,
my
no,
question.
no, no,
You
no.
answered my
Just
question.
in regards to this situation,
Very
yes,
good,
sir.
very good.
Okay.
Okay, the last point that I do want to make, and with all due respect, please don't take it the wrong way, but we did elect you guys to represent us. Even if you are against it personally, you don't, you know what I mean? Y'all are there for us, not what you want or what you
And
don't
there's-
want.
And there's a lot of
So
things that
you've
I.
gotta
have-
remember that.
There's a lot of things that I have voted on that have been the best thing for the community and that I have not, was not in favor of. So I've always take my hat off.
Absolutely.
And put
Just
my
want to
ca-
remind
put my
everybody.
council hat on.
Do you know that we get phone calls from people that don't want this?
I'm getting tons of phone calls right now, tons of them, so I get it. I do. But
So,
I appreciate your
because they
time.
don't show up here tonight, that doesn't mean
Thank you for
everybody.
your time.
I appreciate you walking off like that. No problem.
Sir?
No problem.
I'm Gary Hunter, 117 Mesquite Street, and I'm not really for chickens. I don't want my neighbors to have chickens. On the negative side of chickens, there's salmonella, there's disease. They attract other wildlife like foxes, and sometimes your neighbor's dog likes to dig under the fence and eat the chickens. This is going to bring a whole host of other problems. It's just these restrictions up here is key evidence that there's a lot of concern in those communities about the other neighbors. That's why all those restrictions are up there. I don't think we need to go there. And like you said, this is a master plan community. I like the fact that we do have these restrictions that keeps it out. If I wanted to have chickens or wildlife, I'd go to the farms. I'd move somewhere out in the county where I have enough property to do so. I do not want to put that burden, the nuisance of it, on my neighbors. That's the way it is. As far as these signatures that we got here, they do need to be verified that they are in fact residents, people that live here. Now, I've signed a lot of petitions in my time, for various different things, and sometimes you get a little lackadaisic at what you sign for, okay? Oh, yeah, chickens, yeah, sure, yeah, you can have chickens. No concern on me. I don't want chickens, but if you want chickens, I'll sign for you. And so you got a lot of people that do that. They don't necessarily vote for, mayors either. So, what else I wanted to say? Oh, then there's the chicken math. 4 chickens makes 6 chickens. 6 chickens becomes 10. 10 chickens becomes, wow, I'm making money, 100 chickens. And if we don't have people making sure that that doesn't happen, then you're going to have a mess on your hands. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mike?
Hey everybody, Mike Walls, 59 Southernwood Court. Apparently I got a choice half-acre lot, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm for chickens. I'm not going to get into a whole big brouhaha about that, but I do have a question. When making a decision on something like this, what would prompt the city to put it as a referendum or a vote to the people? Is this something that only council would make a decision on with public input, or could it be something that could be put to a vote?
A vote.
To the Lake Jackson citizens at large?
Yes, it could be put to a vote. There's two ways you can do it. Either council can decide to put it to the vote to the citizens on next election, which would be next May, or there is an option in the city charter that you can follow to put it on a ballot.
And that would be y'all's initiative? So that'd be like a petition-led type
It
initiative?
has
And I
to
could look
be,
into
it will be an official petition. You'd have to file with the city secretary and go through the whole all the requirements to do that. And it would have to be, then that petition would have to come to the city secretary, and she'd have to validate that all the signatures are legal, and if they're city residents, and it would come to council, and then we would have to put it on a ballot.
Okay, so there could be a citizen-led initiative that would, following the right procedures, would allow it to go before a vote of the people, right?
Right.
Perfect. That's what I wanted to know.
Yeah, so I'd make one point about that as well. So we were elected by the people to help make those decisions. And if it becomes a city-led, and correct me if I'm wrong, if it becomes, we have to put it to the voters. I would also like to point out that is an expense to the voters to create that election. Is that correct?
Yes. Most of the time we do have an election, unless nobody decides to run. I mean, unless there's nobody's opposed, but normally we do have an election. But there's been years when we haven't had to call an election because
you can cancel it.
we'd cancel because we had no contested races.
They're not gonna make this debate.
Yeah, but if you're going to have an election anyways, it doesn't cost extra.
No.
No.
Right.
I mean, it's I just wanted to just clarify, in most instances, we do have an election. So it's very rare that, we won't. It does happen, but most of the time, there is an election.
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Sure. Yes, ma'am.
Sherry Hunter, 117 Mesquite. So if we do these chicken things that they want to do, which I think is ridiculous, if you go with the vote to the people to vote, all of Lake Jackson,
Right.
I think that's the way it should be. Now, if they're able to get these votes and go door to door, can we do it on the opposite side against?
Absolutely.
Do
Do
it
I
now?
have to get a permit or something to do that, or can I just do it?
Oh, that you want to
I'm gonna
oppose?
oppose it.
I guess you could.
Do I have to get anything through the city?
Yeah, if you're gonna do a legal petition, it has to go through the city, because you have to, there's forms that you have to go through the city
I
secretary.
think there's a difference. Do you want to just do a petition to see how many people
Oh.
randomly don't want chickens, or do you want to have something put on the ballot?
Probably, I don't know, I might want to do both.
Or
I'll
are
do
you
two
saying if they go out and put a petition to say, hey, we want chickens, you also want to be able to go door to door and say, hey,
Absolutely.
we don't want chickens?
Absolutely.
That's just kind of equal both ways.
You can go door to door without,
But I don't need anything from the city?
no, not for petitions. No,
Okay.
you can do that.
All right.
Okay.
Jennifer Ducote, 407 Dogwood Street.
And Sierra Romero, 410 Dogwood.
All right. Thank you so much, you guys, for having us come in. We appreciate your time and your patience and listening to everyone in the community. And I just wanted to come in and talk to you a little bit about what's been going on and what we have for you now. So after we spoke last time, we decided to go a little bit further. We only had 2 weeks last time, so we just came with you with Angleton's. So Angleton's ordinance. I went out to every single PD within Brazoria County, and out of 16 cities within Brazoria County, 2 cities within them do not allow chickens. That is Surfside and Lake Jackson. Given Surfside's location, population amount of about 1,400, their lot sizes, and the fact that that's more of a place for people to go and retire or go for, going on the summer vacations. And if a storm does come, the loss of life and home and property is imminent. So it makes sense for something like that. Lake Jackson, there's a little bit more of, there should be a little bit more flexibility on that sense. Out of 2 cities out of the 16 require permits in order for you to have chickens, and that is Angleton and Richwood. Within the last 2 years, from 2020 to now, each town has only had 6 permit requests done by both towns. So 6 for Richwood and 6 for Angleton. On the Richwood side, however, 1 was denied because a neighbor disagreed with them being allowed to do it. Now, take note, this town was not an HOA setting. It was just a neighbor didn't want them to have it, so that permit was denied. All my data has been sent to Miss Rhonda. I'm pretty sure she has also sent to everyone else. I did open records requests too, everyone within Brazoria County, and I only got a handful of those open records requests back for police reports. Because when we started this was not just about community. I wanted to look at this as a law enforcement as well to see what kind of issues this has. Now, in regards to the 33 calls from Lake Jackson in the last 2 years, the calls that people are talking about, the types of issues, those were not the calls that were in Lake Jackson PD. You guys have those as well. They were given to you. They're more so just nosy Nancy narking on her neighbor because she had chickens. There are 3 towns. There's Richwood, Sweeney, and there was one more. Sorry, I got a little nervous from tonight. There's 3 towns at least that did not have any calls in the last 2 years. Surfside, they do not allow it. They've had 2 calls in the last 2 years. That was it. It was, forgive me, it was Sweeney, Richwood, and I had all my data. Sorry. No, it wasn't Brazoria. Brazoria, though, they only had 2 calls as well. So I give everything to Miss Rhonda, so she does have to correct all my data. Clute had 11 calls. Now on Clute's side, they did have at least 7 of those calls were roosters. Now roosters are not allowed in Clute. Clute, when it comes to their situation as far as their chickens go, they are on a neighbor call basis. So if somebody has a concern, law enforcement, I spoke to the humane officers every PD that I went to, and even they said, I hear roosters going on, and I know they're not supposed to have it. But I've got more important problems to worry about. If someone's got a call about a rooster or chicken or something, we would rather our community to call us to go out and do our job rather than us going and bothering our community with these issues, even though we know it's an issue. But if it's not bothering me and it's not bothering the neighbor that rooster is by, though now we are not proposing roosters, they just avoid that situation. We wanted to get more into the community, so we did. We went out to the Lake Jackson Farmers Market one Saturday, and we got really involved in the community. It was great. I did reach out to the city manager because I respect our community. I didn't want to do anything illegal. We had Miss Jessica Chase. She was already out there with her booth, and we got a couple of chickens out there in a little pen because we wanted to show the community about this nuisance. And like I said, I did get permission, and I went through all the legal channels, and I appreciate that time because it actually was very rewarding. We had several dogs that were walking by, all different kinds of breeds. They were more curious than anything. They didn't try attacking the cages. They didn't try having any upsetting issues or anything. We've had children that were engaging with us. And the thing is I'm a stay-at-home mom. I've worked a little bit here in Lake Jackson, but I'm not from here. The experience I had being out in the community and talking with them, whether they're for or against this, was very rewarding. We got several signatures while we were there. I was also reached out by someone by the Peach Street Farmers Market. She talked to her, the administrator that owns the Peach Street Farmers Market. Please come out Saturday. I'll share my booth with you. We highly support what you guys are doing, and we want to help you get some more signatures. So I did. Went out to the Peach Street Farmers Market. Now, I do know out of these 1175, there are several of these signatures that are not in Lake Jackson. I can see the positives and I can see the negatives. But on the positive side, now I live in Lake Jackson. And my voice here seems to be quite small because I'm not many. There are several of these signatures here that are in our neighboring communities that approve this and they understand the benefits of this and how it helps their community. And I look at it this way. If I've got several people who are reaching out and they want to support this and they're from our communities that are aside us and they support this, then why should I diminish their voice because they support what we're trying to do as Lake Jackson residents, even though they don't live here. Now, I understand that is your choice to redact, but anyone who wanted to support what we were doing, I didn't want to diminish their voice and tell them, no, you can't sign. But it's council's choice if they want to redact it, and I understand and I respect that. You have a job to do.
We did, going forward through, after last time, we did ask for addresses.
Yes.
To verify that these people were from Lake Jackson or not, so that the redaction process, if you guys choose to do that, is a lot easier. And we wanted to verify, like, a lot of these people are from Lake Jackson, and especially the Lake Jackson Farmers Market, we had a lot of people come up to us and say, I don't want this. And we were like, we understand that, you know, if there's something, if you have questions, we're more than happy to answer those questions. But the vast majority of people that came up to us were for it and from Lake Jackson, so.
Now, something I also wanted to touch base on too is as I'm listening to the public, as I'm listening to topics that I'm learning about as well. Now, we are trying to exercise just a right to have with our property. There's so much that as property owners, taxes, how much we pay to invest in it, things that we have, laws we have to abide by. We are just trying to have a few hens within our property. Now, this same drive, adrenaline, animosity, anger is not being flexed to more serious concerns that are going on in our community. We have a sex trafficking issue here. We have kids we're worrying about getting snatched in our front yards. As a mother of 2 children, special needs I might add, I worry constantly because of how friendly they are to people. But I can't drill into them that fear because my kids have a form of developmental disability. Now, the community is out here, and like I said, we're absorbing all the positive and negative. But when it comes to topics about safety, about our man, woman, and child in our community, that same drive and energy, if they used an ounce of that worrying about the safety of our community, rather than what someone's trying to do with their property, responsibly and respectfully, we have tried to go every single channel, the way that we've carried ourselves online, within our community, within the public, because it's a reflection on us. Because and I understand that not everybody within our community is going to reflect such as well to do it legally, but that is the way we're trying to propose it. Law enforcement has far more important things that they need to worry about, and they're trying to deal with, rather than worrying about getting sent out for things like this, when someone's just trying to exercise a little bit of their property rights, that's all. Now, it ultimately is your decision on what you want to do, and we respect that. That's why you guys are here. But we appreciate you giving us the chance to be able to do this. And if there's anything more that y'all need from us to try, like I said, we've gone every avenue from community support to law enforcement support. And so far as a whole, even on our law enforcement side, our own law enforcement does not have an issue with this. And they're the ones that are going to be going out and enforcing the law that you guys put in place to help our community. I'm seeing a lot that our community is quite worried about the beauty and the way that we look. But the way that things are coming back, we're far more concerned about what our neighbor is going to do with their own property than the safety and the well-being of our own community. That is something that we definitely should focus our attention more so on than just being able to exercise a little bit of our property rights. And this is, if you would like.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. You used a term there, and I wanted to clarify, to be sure it's what you said, is you're talking about the 33 incidents, I believe, in the city of Lake Jackson, and you said that was basically nosy narc neighbors.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so why do you use that term?
Because looking
It's kind of
at-
offensive.
Because of the call volume that was looked at, those calls weren't serious issues. The issues that were going on about worrying about someone's birds being killed by dogs or having predators or them being a smell, a nuisance, those were not addressed in those calls. There were a couple of calls where there was some that were found on the side of the road and that they were murdered by something or they were just dumped. But the majority, and the reason why I said that is because it feels like when your neighbor is far concerned about what you're doing, rather than worrying about what is going on in their own property, it feels like somebody's nosy Nancy. There's a term going around about Karen. Forgive me if I say it correctly, but it's Karen's worrying about what everybody else is doing but what Karen's doing and butting in on that. It seems to be one of those trendy terms that's going around as far as other people butting in other people's business rather than focus on something that is actually more important to worry about.
But you do realize that we sitting on council and city staff, we do get phone calls from residents that you call nosy narcs that do have a concern about what's happening in their neighborhood. And sometimes, yes, we have to address those, and we say, there's really nothing we can do about it, there's not an issue. It's the people are operating within the current codes that we have in place, and so forth. But we have to address those. And those are concerns that that citizens have. So you call them nosy narcs, we call them citizens.
Fair
Okay.
enough.
All right. All right. Anybody else from the audience? If not, yes, sir.
Jim Miller here again. Talking about putting people out to enforce codes and everything else, this one lady brought it up a while ago. I think she done gone about that boat being off in that yard and everything, but right now, y'all got the ordinances, no parking on sidewalks. And
State law.
State law.
I realize, I know that, I'm going there.
Okay.
And you got an ordinance also that says you're not supposed to put your garbage out till the morning of. My God, if you run up and down Acacia Street, garbage is out there right now waiting to be picked up tomorrow morning. Dogs and cats and coons, everything else is getting in there. And the rats, yeah, we got rats in that neighborhood. But anyways, I kind of laugh at the guy. He's a good friend of mine, old John McDonald. Y'all know him. We sponsored one of his daughter's heifers one time. He's a good guy, in my opinion. But he would go around on a Sunday afternoon ticketing people for parking on sidewalks when he was bored. And he gave me a warning one time. He said, John, he said, don't you go there, Jim. And everything else, because I'm about that far over on the sidewalk. But anyways, I have yet to see anybody. My wife, she's disabled. She walks with a cane and everything. And she likes to go out on a walk. And she's always having to go either out in the street or way out in the grass on lots of vehicles, especially down at the 300 block of Acacia. I ain't never seen code enforcement. Ever since John left, I ain't seen nobody in there giving tickets for that stuff. Anyways, we'll talk later on. Thank you.
All right. All right, we'll move on.
There's one
We'll
more, I think, Gerald.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
She's been trying to get her.
I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Sorry, I didn't see you back.
That's okay. Nancy Freshour, 53 Lavender Court. And first blush, I am not in favor of having chickens in the community. A lot of the issues regarding that have already been eloquently presented. But there are other considerations when you talk about these issues. If you do it, I'm in favor of permitting to defray any inspection costs. We are in the nexus of a huge fly zone, and that's part of some of our economic benefit because it draws tourists to this area, all the wild birds that are migrating through here. Now there have been issues, like say in North Carolina, other places where there's flocks that have to be, these are domestic flocks that have to be killed because of bird flu. We have to be cognizant of if we have an ordinance that allows chickens, is that encouraging chickens in the community? We have dogs and cats in the community, but if we have an ordinance that allows chickens, are we encouraging a lot more domestic fowl that interacts with the wild birds? Because that's not necessarily a good mix, if you look that up. So that's one consideration about our economics in our area. The other issues are chickens have to be tended daily. They're not like cats. You can leave them for a weekend with their food and other things. And what happens when someone has to go out of town? You can't just take your chickens to a kennel while you're gone. You have to tend to them daily. And there are good pet owners in town, and there are not good pet owners in town. And these people are calling the chickens pets. And so, like what was said, there's a huge population at our SPCA, unfortunately, because we have a lot of people that are not good pet owners. We have dogs and cats that are just dropped off in the community, maybe not even from Lake Jackson, but dropped off. What's going to happen when the chickens outgrow their laying ability? They can lay eggs for maybe 2 to 3 years, and you can correct me because I'm just looking some of the stuff up, but they can live up to 7 or 8 years. What happens after they stop laying their eggs? Are they going to be treated as pets? Or are they going to, if you're saying, well, this is sustainability for your family, are you going to dump those chickens and get some other ones? And up on the board, it was like $100 to euthanize them or something, if I didn't misread it. Or maybe $350 if you want some extras with it, cremation and other things. So that's pretty expensive for someone who's complaining about the price of eggs going up. So there's a lot of considerations like that. And just when you want to look at these issues, you need to look at the whole entire issue of even having an ordinance for this and bringing, the chickens into the community. The Angleton one says the coop must be 50 feet from any residence. Does that mean the actual residence of the people that own the chickens as well? So
I think in most cases it does.
yeah,
Any
because
living-
you can track the poop into the house and you can get, a lot of the salmonella and other things transferred. They always recommend having different boots or other shoes when you tend to the chicken area, and then leave those and don't come into the house with those. There's a lot of things. So people that get chickens, it's great. It's almost like a fad the last several years, but there's a lot of nuances with owning the chickens that maybe your average person doesn't know about and can cause other issues, health issues and other things in the community. So anyway, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, if I can, years of teaching nursing students. Nursing students can what if any scenario to death, seriously. And you have to bring them back to evidence-based practice, okay? Yes, there's a million what ifs, but we have some guidelines. And the fact is that every community in Missouri County allows some version of chickens. And I made these phone calls. None of them have had these what if scenarios. We have control to address every single issue from cleanliness to coop size to neighbors to smell. And I know that because we read the Angleton ordinance, and it's just very specific. It literally has addressed, everybody's concerns are valid, but literally we can address those concerns. So to where everybody's happy, to where you don't have to hear or smell chickens, but she gets to have fresh eggs. Just saying there's a compromise here that we can come up with to address the issues. Or we can what if it to death for the next 4 hours.
Okay. All right, I'll take a motion on item 1.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to proceed.
Item 2, sorry.
Oh, sorry. Are we
Oh,
two?
item
No,
1.
We're
Sorry.
still on number
I got
1.
you. I saw Kibido's name by there and I got confused. I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion to instruct not council, but our city attorney to move forward with creating an ordinance that allows chickens in Lake Jackson.
Okay, we have a motion. I need a second to move forward.
I second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion by council? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please state by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. Motion to move forward as requested has been denied.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out.
Move on to item 2, is to discuss allowing residents to keep rabbits and bees in the city limits. Mr. Miller? All right.
Anyways, I'm Jim Miller. Y'all done heard that already. But I thought I'd jump on the bandwagon, just try to get something going here. It's been on my mind for many, many a year. And that's allowing people to raise rabbits, mainly show rabbits. If you don't mind, I got a little thing I like y'all to hear. These are the rules and regulations on show rabbits up there at the fairgrounds.
And if we pass it down, yeah.
Like I said earlier, I raised rabbits. My children did there for the fairgrounds. And big thing about rabbits or chickens or anything else boils down to cleanliness. You've got to have not only consideration for yourself, but your neighbors and everything else. Rabbits don't squawk or nothing else. So that's the good part. The poop definitely don't stink. I can promise you. I had a big old truckload of sitting in my front yard for a while. I got from out there in Danbury. Just now got it in my garden. My mater plants are looking good. Now, the way they've got it set up there at the fairgrounds, a person does not have to raise rabbits all year long. Now, to their benefit, if they really want to get heavily into the competition of rabbits, start breeding their own genetics and everything else, yes, it's good. But now, that being said, they've got the ability now just to go out and buy your show rabbits, say within 2 months of the show, raise them out and everything else, and show them and get rid of them. And folks up there in the ag building don't know I'm doing this at all. I'm just winging it right now. But man, I would really love to see more rabbits in that show barn up there at the fairgrounds. It's all going downhill up there. People just ain't getting the word out in the community. I think too many daggum soccer moms and people play baseball and everything else on Sundays when they should be in church, as far as I'm concerned. I don't know how many darts I got in the back of my head right now, but anyways. Meat rabbits are good. You wouldn't believe the nutritional benefits of them. They used to talk about how good times, bad times, and everything else. Rabbits was the main staples back in the 40s and 50s. You didn't see no chickens or anything else on the plates. It was rabbit. There's plenty of them around. They're very nutritional. I got just a little bit of stuff on the nutritional facts on them things. It's been kind of a trying period there around the house here lately.
Well, while you're looking at that, I did talk to
Yes, sir.
I talked to BISD about chickens and rabbits, about the ability if our not having an ordinance that allows them in our city limits, if they cause a problem for their FFA and their 4-H operations and stuff. And so they have said, I was told by Mr. Massey and also by the person that's over their programs there, is that it hasn't been a hindrance for their students. That if there's been students that have had, again, this is what I was told, that did wish to show chickens or rabbits, they made arrangements with other people that had the ability to be able to keep those animals.
Well, it's changed since I was up there because
I'm not saying that there's a whole bunch of kids that are interested in showing chickens, like you're saying. That
well, that's not
rabbits-
chickens. Yeah, it's more rabbits than anything.
Yeah, there is an avenue for them.
Okay,
through
well,
the schools.
Yeah, because I was wanting to get my granddaughter doing some of this stuff. But as a matter of fact, I got 3 of my grandchildren and my daughter living with us now. They had to move back in July. She's going through the divorce, and they're going to be there for several years, it sounds like. That's why I was wanting to get my grandchildren, and they'll raise some rabbits in the backyard. I don't know. It's just one of those things to consider.
And you do also have a request about bees, and we
Yes,
do
sir. Okay,
allow,
okay.
we do allow bees, but we have restrictions on them.
Really? And that's what I've been told.
Yeah, it's in our ordinance.
Please show me.
You got to have 500 feet.
Oh, yeah, I knew that part of it. Okay, yeah, I knew that part of it. And
It gets back to, again, I think it gets back to the safety concern about the bees and stuff. And I mean, bees can be aggressive if they're harassed. And
Well, this is true. About the only time I'm a beekeeper. I've got bees down there in South Texas. That's where all the good honey's at. If I want local honey, I go see some of my commercial guys and buy it from them. Here about 2 years ago, I'm guessing it was, we had some people confront us. Beekeeping is an excellent it's good for PTSD veterans, or PTSD. And there's a lot of veterans around here that cope, got to deal with PTSD. And we was told we couldn't have no bees in this town to help our veterans, and we just.
We had a group that approached us.
Okay.
Some time ago.
Yeah, it's been a couple of years ago.
It was when Bill was here, and we offered up out toward where the landfill is at, that we could do something out there, and we never heard back from them about it. But we were supportive.
Yeah, because I didn't hear anything back from them either.
That we could that we made that offer that we could possibly make that happen.
Really?
Make that happen. So if
Well,
you
I
know somebody
apologize.
that's still involved with that, they can still talk to us about it. But yeah, they did come to us, and that's what we said, that there might be an opportunity to do something out there.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, but anyways, back to the rabbits too. Our son is autistic.
Okay.
Very bad stuttering problem. He got Tourette's syndrome and everything else. He's been born right that way. He's a special ed student. And the only two things that helped him, one was music therapy in school, and of all things, he's caught picking rabbits.
Right.
And he got up there. One year we had excellent genetics. We showed up there. And he ended up with a reserve grand champion single fryer. And they started bidding, and I ain't never seen that kid smile that big since before. He got $1,700 for the auction night, then Dow donated an extra $100 for each lot that, junior livestock auction that night. But I was using it for therapy on him. A lot of kids like them chickens for our granddaughter and everything else. Two birds named Sally. I still can't get over that. Anyways, I guess I'm going to pull my mess up around here, but back to them chickens and everything else, I hate to see it, slide under the table the way it is. A lot of people, like I say, I've had them. I kept a clean environment and everything else. My neighbors thoroughly enjoyed it, and you talk about people going out of town, I got my neighbor to watch them for me. But anyway.
Oh, no, there's ways that, work with neighbors and stuff. I understand. Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to item 3, discuss, thank you. Discuss code enforcement complaint with Magnolia Street. Ms. Marshall, or Ms., there you go.
I'm a little short. My name is Connie Marshall, and my husband and I live at 803 Magnolia Street. And we have been residents there for 20-plus years, raised 4 children, and we have 2 grandchildren. Why I'm addressing you tonight is a lot of the same thing I've heard in different things, that people are being infringed upon by their neighbors. And I, too, encounter that. With our neighbor next door, they have a very large derelict camper that they've had for at least, since the first stimulus check came out. It's never been out of the drive. It doesn't have windows in it anymore. It's been gutted. And my husband and I have put a lot of time and effort into our home. And it depreciates our residential value. And I'm just wondering if y'all could help us with that. It's that simple.
Yeah, we have junk vehicle ordinance and so forth. And the thing is, I was thinking, it's been a long time since I've owned an RV. But I think RVs are required to be inspected now on an annual basis. Chief, you know that or not? Yeah.
We've gone by, code enforcement has gone by, I've personally gone by. We've checked, the truck. The truck is operating, has been inspected, so
Right.
they're in compliance. We couldn't see a inspection sticker, from the front of
Right.
so we've not confirmed if it is, you know, if it does have current registration, we would have to go, you know, check with the neighbor and see if it does, you know, if it has a current registration. That would be about the only way that we could pursue it. But if it does have, we can't pursue anything on how it looks.
Right.
But if it meets the transportation code and has an inspection sticker, then it's legal. So right now, you know, the boat and the vehicle, motorcycle are all, you know, are
And
all
the
legal
four-wheeler.
and all parked
And the
legal.
four-wheeler,
and meet-
jet ski,
and-
four-wheeler.
And all of those meet the ordinance. There is, they're not in violation. The only thing that could be is if the camper does not have a current inspection sticker.
What about the boat?
Oh, there's a boat too?
The boat, we do not enforce registration on that.
Just out of curiosity, where is registration normally required to be displayed on a camper? Chief?
Do you know?
Yeah, again, it's been a long time since I've had one. I mean, you've got your normal tags that you have for license plates and stuff, but I think there has to be, you have to have an inspection done by, like you do your vehicle. You drive it up to some place and they inspect it to say that it can drive on the road, that's safe to drive on the road. So, but I'm not sure.
COVID's when it really started. I mean, they've always had a lot of vehicles, but when COVID came, they bought the trailer and it hasn't moved since 2020. They bought the boat. The boat they've taken out once and it broke down and it hasn't moved since. You know, it's just all the stuff.
Right.
I mean, if this was your neighbor, would you not try and seek some kind of relief? I mean, we even talked to them. I mean, they're nice people. We get along with them other than this stuff, you know. We'd like to build a fence, you know, but it's, can't do that here, even though you find them all over, back over towards, the other side towards, Dixie Drive. It's, but I guess all those were grandfathers or whatever.
Yeah, we can have code enforcement, you know, knock on the door, talk to the neighbor, and then do an inspection to see, and ask if it has a current registration. If it has a current registration, then there's nothing we can do.
Well, that question was asked, if it's inspected,
Now, where do they display the tag normally?
There's, again, I don't know.
Does the chief know?
Again, I remember my son-in-law, they still have campers, and I think it's a sticker that goes on the camper.
It's a fifth wheel camper.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They gutted it out and
Yeah.
like in the process of.
Chief,
rebuilding it.
I'm sorry, I think the chief did answer. Chief, do you know where the inspection sticker has to be displayed
It's just
on
like
the
a vehicle
camper?
now, like so your motor vehicles,
Uh-huh.
you get it inspected, you can't get it registered without inspection, you have one sticker.
Hmm.
So the same way, to get the registration updated on the camper, they would need to get it inspected. If it's a size that was required to be inspected, then you can get your tags and there's a sticker on the back plate.
So it's on the
So it goes on the back of
Like
it,
the
so
old
it goes on
days.
the back.
Like the old days.
Okay.
Yeah, I just did a trailer, that's
You
how
got
it
a
was.
year that, then, yeah. It's like the old days.
Yeah, that would take a little bit more further action from us. All we've been doing for right now is from the road.
From the road.
You know, is from the roadway.
But I bet we can have it done.
We can reach out.
We've had-
We can reach out and just knock on the door and ask,
enforcement. She's real
ask them
nice.
to, you know, could you show us your, you know, proper registration? If not, then we give them so many days to rectify the situation.
Okay, and I know that the street is a public road, but we have no place to park our vehicles when we have company because they have 5 or 6 vehicles lined up in front of our house and their house.
Well, that was gonna be my question. Is this not like a party or something? Is
No,
it- it's always
that's
like
every
that?
day.
In fact, that's not
All the vehicles.
I should have taken them at night, but, yeah. There's usually 5 vehicles.
Do you need
Two in
these,
the
Sally?
drive,
For,
How
okay.
many people are living there?
We have no idea.
Well, it's all.
They
they're
come
all
and go.
family. It's all family.
But they do come and go. I mean, so there's not a consistent number that I can give you at all time, other than the man and the woman that, the older people that live there, like
They have children, they have grandchildren, they got some
nieces and nephews.
Their son just got out of the military and he moved back home. So, I mean, they're all part of the same thing.
Yeah, so again, you know, parking on the roadway, everybody can park on the roadway. You can park in front of a neighbor's, you know, house. You do have to move your car on a regular basis, and that sounds like that's what they're doing, because when we drive by during the day,
Oh, yeah.
most of the cars are gone, and so they're regularly moving, so there's not much we can do in
That's
that.
another question for me, you know, I'm about to retire. And, you know, a lot of people do a little side business where they buy and sell vehicles. So if I bought 7 or 8 vehicles, as long as I move them around and they're legal, I can keep them on the street?
No, we don't have a home occupation allowed for,
Yeah.
for car sales.
For car sales,
No.
it would,
Okay.
you, there you
Well,
would
they're
be.
just my vehicles and I
Yeah.
wanna work on them. I can do that?
Well, I mean, if it's your vehicle and you're.
If it's titled under your name.
All right.
So the thing where the vehicles have to move so often, is that applicable to boats and trailers and?
No,
No.
because that's
Just
street
vehicles.
parking.
Yeah, it's street parking. Now, you can't leave your boat out,
On the street.
on the street or a trailer and stuff, but your car, you can move your car and stuff. You have a little more latitude, and I can't remember the hours. You have a little more latitude to park a car in front of your own house versus your neighbor. But there's no clear prohibition where we can't say, no, you can't park in front of your neighbor. We give it a time limit, and then they have to
It's not all
move.
the time, but, I mean,
It's a great majority of the
yeah,
time.
I mean,
And lastly, the last thing I want to ask you about them, and is their large trash pickup. I know we have it twice a month, and as soon as their large trash is picked up, the next pile comes out to the curb.
That's an ongoing problem we have all around the place.
Well, that we can address. I mean, what we are doing
Red
in that is we are red tagging. We probably have moved a little bit into
I think they knew we were coming to that, cause all.
into.
All is gone.
We probably have moved a little bit into enforcement on that. What we do is that the week that we're not picking up trash, code enforcement tries to go on that side of the town to let them know that, to check, and if there's trash, you're putting out trash on your wrong week. And so then we'll follow up, on that, and if it's somewhat, most, we'll say, I didn't know, now I know, we'll correct the behavior. There are some that we have to repeatedly tell them, and then it moves to citation.
What day of the week they pick your regular trash up? Monday,
It's
Thursday, or
next
Tuesday?
Monday, so we're the second and fourth.
Monday, Thursday?
He
Monday,
said
Thursday, they pick it up?
regular
Yeah.
trash, regular
Oh,
trash.
regular trash is Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah, so they're on the
They go
south side.
Second, fourth?
Yeah, 7 and 4.
That's like,
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
I
We'll
do
follow up on
appreciate
both.
y'all listening, and I
Yes,
really,
thank you.
thank y'all for driving by. I didn't know we already generated that much interest.
Well, yeah, I mean, we do listen, and we're trying to address it as best we can, and we try to address things with current codes that we have in place before we go over there and create something new, but trailer homes, RVs like this have on occasion been a problem, so it's just that people buy them and they just sit, and they just sit.
but that auxiliary parking right there, that's probably one of the best ones I've seen.
Yeah, they're,
Truly. Driving by, it's better looking
Well,
than right
we
there.
called several times about parking on the grass, and they had to move them, so
Right.
Yeah.
I guess they made a.
That's-
Yeah.
they put
That's
in
better
They
crushed
did a
than
rock.
good
grass
job on that.
And that
Yeah.
crushed rock, I
Yeah.
paid to have my property surveyed just to make sure, because Connie swore it was on our property, and that it is, the property line are those timbers right there. That is the property line.
Okay.
They did a good job on that.
We
I
will.
couldn't have come over any further.
So we will ask, I'll ask our code enforcement officer to reach out and check to see if it has
Okay.
proper
She
registration.
knows that we've been talking to her.
If
before.
it does not, then we may be able to take further action, trying to get them, give them time to get it registered. But if it is registered, then it can stay there.
I understand.
Okay.
I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
y'all,
you.
Wally.
All right, we'll move on to item 4, discuss and consider ordinance amending Chapter 120 utilities for rate increase for roll-offs and compactors. First reading. You want to read that?
Yes, I'm sorry. I'm not prepared here. This is an ordinance by the city, by the council of the city of Lake Jackson, Texas, amending section 102.1 of the Code of Ordinances by revising the fees to be charged for water, sewer, garbage, and dumpster services, and water and sewer tap fees, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for a saving clause, and providing for an effective date. Specifically, It is for the roll-off construction dumpsters and compactors that we have. And so those are, Milford, can you move to the section that has those highlighted where we show the recommended? It's in red. You're getting close. Okay.
They're having a party outside.
So it's these fees specifically. Roll-offs and compactors. We have an initial placement fee of $75. We're recommending that go to $100. And then you'll see the roll-offs uncompacted. These are usually construction dumpsters that are out that we pick up. We pick up, out of all the dumpsters we pick up, we also hire Sprint to help assist us. And they probably pick up about 60% of our dumpsters. We pick up the remaining 30%. And we had a price increase go in effect February 1st. And so right now, as that was a close to $58 or $48.50. I can't remember. Or is it $58.50 per pickup? And so when we pick up a 20-yard dumpster now, if we call out Sprint, we lose $24 every time we pick up a dumpster. And again, these are construction dumpsters. And then we have compactors as well. So we're recommending a price increase to absorb, this cost increase that's been borne to us that we need to pass on to the customer. Milford, if you'll go up to the previous page, we went back and looked at survey data of some of our surrounding. It's on the opening council communication. So below there, you'll see how we compare. And so for a 20-yard dumpster, we're currently at $360. We're proposing to go to $450. And you'll see some surrounding cities where we could get data. It's actually very hard to find the data, for this, because most of the cities will bid out directly and do not put it in their ordinance. So the ones we could find in Conroe, it's 906, Deer Park 870, Missouri City 491, Angleton 490, and then you can see the corresponding 30 and 40-yard dumpsters. So even with the increase, we're still below average on there. And again, we'd like to make this effective June 1st. I think we're going to have to do a little bit deeper dive for this because our initial read on landfill fees will go up again. So we're going to have to address this, come October 1. But yeah, right now is when we pick up 20-yard dumpsters, which is about 30 to 40% of our dumpster pickups. If it's Sprint picking up for us, we're losing $24 each time.
Okay. Any questions from council? If not, I'll take a motion on first reading of the ordinance as presented.
Move for approval.
Have a motion. Need a second.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Okay, so we move on to item 5, which is discuss and consider an ordinance. Okay. Chapter 120, utilities, to add water well clearance restrictions for livestock. First reading. Ms. Russell.
Okay, so we did this, I think it was September, and we thought everything was okay, and then we got a letter from TCEQ that said you need to put your cows back in. One guy told us, well, you can take them out because you have this other livestock prohibition, and now a lady told us put them back in. So that's all this is. We don't have livestock around our wells. It's not gonna be a big change for us. But, of course, they don't want livestock within 50 feet of a water well.
How many feet?
50 feet.
50.
And we don't allow livestock within 150, but it doesn't particularly say presence in pastures. So we're just adding it back in.
Okay.
Not a big deal.
All right. So Melissa, I guess you need to read that.
This is an ordinance amending Chapter 120 Utilities of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Lake Jackson, Texas, adding water well clearance restrictions for livestock, providing that all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith shall be repealed to the extent of the conflict only, providing for a penalty, providing a savings clause, and providing an effective date.
All right, I'll take a motion on the item.
I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, first reading pass. Item 6, discuss and consider an ordinance amending Chapter 98, Traffic and Vehicle to the designated truck routes to include Oyster Creek Drive from Dixie Drive to Old Angleton Road, first reading.
Yeah, this really came about from, we had a concerned citizen call about the truck traffic leaving and turning left and going over the median on Dixie Drive, which we've prohibited by putting a median, but it's not a big enough median to block an 18-wheeler. But it was also an agreement with Kroger not to allow that, because when we did the traffic impact analysis to allow that driveway to be on our roadway, it was a right turn only. But in the traffic impact analysis also, we noted we were trying to direct truck traffic onto Oyster Creek Drive and then turn right and then go to Old Angleton Road. Well, we said we would clean that up and make that section of roadway allow for truck traffic. We never did. And so it shows up as not a through route for truck traffic. I don't know, it's a minor thing. It may not be prohibiting the truck driver from doing that anyway, but the city manager, if included, also said that they would speak with the manager, reminding them of the responsibility to turn right and then go onto OCD and then go to either Old Angleton Road or Business 288.
Those trucks coming behind HE or Kroger after they load, that's where we're talking about.
Yeah, they're supposed to turn right, according to the traffic impact analysis.
Supposed to turn right in and then right coming out. And what they're
Yes.
doing is they're turning left coming out.
And they're turning left and they're jumping that small kind of curb. It's not big enough to prevent an 18-wheeler. But we wanted to clean up our responsibility of designating that small portion as a truck route, so it would show up as a designated truck route.
I mean, right now, we have a lot of trucks going down Oyster Street towards HEB all the time. Is that through traffic or that's normal traffic?
A truck can go to make a delivery. It just can't be for through traffic. So sometimes, you can see a truck invariably go down Oyster Creek Drive if they're going to a designated point for delivery, but they can't use it for through traffic.
Okay. Any other questions on this one? All right, move forward. Need a motion on this item?
Mayor, make a motion to approve item number 6 as written.
Okay, motion is second. Any other discussion on it? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. All right, we move to item 7, update on new business coming to the city. David?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is just the biweekly update to businesses that have come into Lake Jackson, making application, progress in construction, and where they are. We did receive formal application for the build-out of coastal cages. They are working in there. It's going to be magnificent and a great addition to the community. And we're working with them to make sure that we can get them open as quickly as possible in their time frame. This is the old HEB on Dixie and Plantation. Ongoing permits, obviously we see the build out for Taco Bueno happening. You see signage on the building now. I don't have a projected opening date for them, but that is a franchise that is moving down into the Houston area from DFW, and that'll be a good addition to Lake Jackson. As you can see on there, we have other projects that are still in progress, including the apartments behind the Buc-ee's. You can see those have now started vertical framing, and so progress is happening there. Are there any questions you might have on anything that's listed.
David, I had one.
Yes, sir.
At our LJDC meeting, they were asking about a business, Milford.
The MMA. Yep.
They didn't know what kind of business it was.
That was
we were doing.
one, and we're guessing that's a MMA.
Yeah, mixed martial arts.
Mixed
Yep.
martial arts. No, there was another one that wasn't showing up on the list. I wrote a
Harbor,
note.
Harbor
It wasn't Harbor Freight, it
Was it a
was,
restaurant?
do you remember, Milford?
Off the top of my head, I can't recall, but I know that
There was a business I would have thought that would have showed up on here. Gosh, I'm sorry.
Harbor
I can't,
Freight?
Go where?
I can't
Nothing
remember.
with Harbor Freight?
No.
Harbor Freight has been in communication with us, and I do believe from the time that this was prepared, we have received additional information about that. I'll verify whether or not we have a formal application.
Yes, Sally remembered. It's the
Grazia's Italian?
Grazi's, the Italian.
Oh,
Yeah.
Grazi's.
Yeah,
That is
Smith
moving
Heart.
into the old Smith Hearts.
But it's not showing up on
No,
the
because
list.
we do not have a formal application for them yet. They are in there doing some demo work.
Okay.
And making it ready for a build-out, but we
Okay.
don't have an application for
That was
the
it.
actual build-out itself.
Thank you.
Okay. That it? Thank you, sir. Number 8, city manager, bad news. Debris.
Yes. So we got notification from TCEQ last week on a phone call. We're waiting on a letter, but we're moving forward, that they denied our request to grind the material and put it on the old landfill.
Did they give you a reason?
No, that may be highlighted in the letter.
We haven't received a letter yet.
But it was no, and so I'll probably, if we firm up the numbers, we may have an action item on the 25th when we meet on the CIP for approving our bid that we went out in February to haul that and take it to a site in Freeport owned by Dow Chemical to burn it. And we've already gotten approval from Dow Chemical, and Chief Sidebottom has been working with the county as well for burning. Yeah, we'll probably take that out to Freeport. My estimation, that'll probably set us back somewhere around $250,000, $275,000. And I'll finish up that storm debris, so we'll get that. No, no. So you'll see that coming back, but I just wanted to let you know that we were denied.
Okay, construction updates.
Can I ask a question about that?
About what?
About
The storm debris?
TCEQ?
About the storm debris? I guess you can, if you can brief, because we can't really do a lot of discussion, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, what can we do about that? What can, it seems ridiculous to me.
It is.
Yeah, so I think everybody agrees. I mean, what can citizens of Lake Jackson do? I mean, call TCEQ, call.
I mean, you could, I don't know, I mean, we've exhausted, what we can with the regulations. What we found out really what happened is, in years past, we've probably have put, mulching on the old landfill. And in essence, what's happened was the two previous large storms, the governor had taken away a lot of the regulations that TCEQ had to work under because the debris was so massive across the state. And so so TxDOT had a lot of flexibility and was allowing cities to do things. So, we were given a lot of latitude to grind it and put it there. Well, we were probably under the mistaken belief that we could do that again.
Yeah.
This storm was a very compact storm that only affected 3 counties, and there was no latitude. And so it is a burn. We would even have to jump on hoops. We've studied the possibility of grinding it and then moving it to burn, which can reduce our costs because our shipping cost goes down. Even that is a likelihood of getting turned down to grind it on the site, because TCU considers once you grind it, it becomes a product. Right. And now we're burning a product and stuff. So we're going to just take the most feasible route now to just to move it. And we won't make this mistake again. We just won't in essence, what we'll be doing from any future storm, we'll be taking it to a burn site and burning it.
Yeah,
So if-
because we tried to take it to work with the GLO to move it out to sand dunes. And the county had enough trouble just trying to get a permit to do their grinds to put out on us for sand dunes. They couldn't get a permit large enough to take ours.
Yeah.
So when we tried to look at, could we just move it, grind it and move it to different locations? And TCEQ's opinion is that they had to approve whatever shape or form this storm debris was in, they had to approve where it went. And so it was just, we're down to just burning it.
Yeah, so it's a hard lesson for, staff, to learn. We had a lot greater latitude the two previous storms that we don't have now. So in the future, we'll take it directly to a site to be burned.
And there's no, citizens going and taking mulch would not be voluminous enough to make any real dent in this?
Well, this
or-
isn't,
This
this hasn't been ground yet. It's still in its raw form. Because we're not allowed to grind it.
We're not allowed to even grind
We
it.
can't
No.
grind it.
So
can't
we
even
couldn't
grind
move all the mulch out and then grind it and make new mulch. That wouldn't work
We
either.
tried that.
Have we talked to the high schools about bonfire season?
I could use some firewood.
Again, that would have to
you
be
know?
approved.
And really, the biggest complication of this is we put it on an old landfill. And even at the grinding, our application was to spread it over, the equivalent of 15 to 20 acres at 3 to 4 inches high. We would, monitor it on a weekly basis, measure the temperature. They're worried about combustion on top of an old landfill.
Yeah.
That's the reasoning why.
Yeah. And my question, is simply because, we can come talk to you guys pretty easily. All of y'all are very approachable, and we have this. But the state, overreach, just 24/7, citizens feel helpless. You know what I mean?
I wanted to say on my phone call today that one of the few times the governor used common sense in previous storms and allowed us to
allow us the freeway,
to grind.
give us the freedom
All right,
to do what
thanks,
we wanted to
guys.
do. Yeah. All right. Oh,
Excuse me, one more quick question about that, though. They will allow you to burn it and create air pollution
right.
instead?
Doesn't make sense. But
No, it doesn't make
Welcome to
sense.
state government.
Yes, I understand.
Again-
But also, now we're approaching this drought situation, so we may not be able to burn it for a while either.
We're moving with all expediency now.
Yep. Sal, tell us about projects.
I'll take care of it.
I'm here to answer questions primarily. As far as the projects are concerned, the Lakewood project is proceeding fairly well. They are now raced most of the pads along the area. They're removing a lot of the old excavated grub out of the area, but it's primarily most of the pads are being built now. From there on, I don't know whether there's any permits on the actual building themselves, and I believe that unless David tells me otherwise, they haven't yet had permits issued on the buildings. On the downtown project, the drainage is the primary problem, which I did try to warn you
Right.
was going to be a very, very touchy subject. Well, it's coming up because it's on its way. They are putting in the main artery of the drainage system that goes all the way from that way. They've already turned the corner. They're heading down towards on Circle Way to North Parking Place at this time. They were about level with the start of the La Bodega business. And of course, that particular area does have a lot of traffic that crossing from one to the other. These people are a good contractor. They bend backwards to accommodate the access, and they have done significantly well to our advantage.
I've gone down each day. the access that they provided has been very good
Definitely so.
for the pedestrian access, much better than the first phase. So
Better
we've made
than all the other ones.
So we've made improvements there. There is one spot that Sal is working with the contractor to see if we can make improvements to open up that parking in front of the old Smith Arts there to open up, but we need to make a transition where they can do a U-turn. We're very hesitant on opening the alleyway to allow just to allow regular traffic through there, because there's a lot of delivery trucks that use that. It's for delivery trucks, and so someone could park and then go through there and then be stuck. And they're using, and it's just not appropriate for through traffic. So, what they're trying to do is work on getting a temporary pavement across some of the parking, so we can do a U-turn right there and open that back up. So, we're working in earnest on that. I don't know if you have a timeline on that.
Well, we're just waiting on getting up to a certain point. I think they reached that today by putting in the crossing at the alley at Circleway.
Yeah. So as soon as we
Now that
can
they're
get,
open.
so as soon as we get that turn open, then we can open up that parking right there in front of Smith Arts.
Okay.
Correct. So primarily that is, and what's going on, along with the actual placement of that underground drainage system, they are also proceeding removing the pavement in that particular area, because it's the only logical sequence that they have to do, so that they don't have to reconstruct the street again or create a temporary street
Right.
for something that they're going to be tearing out for concrete purposes. So they're following suit with their operation, and they told us about that one. That created a little bit of a problem with the facing that we put out there to the public, because at that time we really didn't have any idea what the contractor was going to be doing. So they took an engineer's plan, design, and it just didn't fit the actual operational sequence that a contractor uses. So we have sort of been malleable. We've allowed the contractor to guide us on what it is that they want. We still question whatever it is that they're proposing to do. If we see that there is some common sense to that and it will create a better product, faster product, and we're all for that. So, we're working with a contractor, and they know that we are open to suggestions from them. The canopy work is proceeding well. They've almost finished everything except for the one. They were working on the Taekwondo front today, and once that framing goes on, then they will start moving on the finishing up all the plywood work that those 3 remaining buildings have, that, the Cattery, and the old Smith Arts back area.
And what you will not see is we will not put up a fascia on the, what I would call the vacant building where Zoom Gasthaus was.
Correct.
It's just plywood. It just makes no sense for us to put a fascia on that.
Now, the contractor has attempted to talk to the owner about doing something to it. The owner originally, I thought, was going to be receptive to some agreement. It didn't work out that way. So we're going back to, hey, don't do anything. Let him have a. And eventually, we'll probably have to slip some type of a dangerous building determination situation if it doesn't move any further.
Yeah, condition is failing pretty quick.
Correct.
Building structure.
Correct.
All right.
I know that there's questions concerning parking, and like I said, parking is going to be disrupted for the duration where the work is being done. We try to comply. We try to work with the business owners. Sometimes it's near impossible to have agreement on that.
But the faster they get done, the faster.
The faster they get done, the
Stopping
pain.
it now is not gonna just help anything.
No, the pain is lessened, yes.
Right.
So I will tell you this, I was in Sure Perfection the other day, and they did have a problem. They had 0 access. They had it was before they put that access right up to it. So that was a little bit of a problem that day. They had this 85-year-old lady tromping through the construction with her walker. However, it was resolved quickly.
Okay.
And I will give you a high five from the owner of Sure Perfections. They said that this construction crew has done a very good job with coming in and just communicating with them. So, and I think that
Well,
makes
I'm
it
glad to
easier
hear
to
that.
tolerate the.
I'm glad to hear
mess.
that because I didn't know whether there had been any communication between the contractor, even though we at the very get-go told them they needed to have that communication open. We ourselves had not been doing our, I guess, our due diligence in communicating changes like that. But those are spur in the moment. They make changes. They make decisions, and a lot of times they're the only ones that can make that notification.
Okay. All right, we'll move
And
on
that's the
to,
extent of the projects that we have going on for the town. The other ones are on design stage, and we'll just proceed with that.
okay, thanks. Robin, you want to give us an update on the half-cent projects?
Yes, short and quick. The roof, everything is done except for the metal part in the front. 2 weeks, another 2 weeks. They're still waiting on the metal. So, but they've gone through. Everything's done. I did even climb the ladder and got y'all a couple pictures of that as far as I could go. But it looks really good. They've tested for leaks and stuff. So I even tried to get a picture of the natatorium, the new roof with all the pollen on top.
Wow.
It was amazing. Yeah, I kept looking at it thinking, what is that color? It was the pollen. It was so bad. But that's moving along. So I'm hoping by May, we can get they can get their materials and get that finished. And the skate park is still moving right along. They've gotten the pad almost completed. They're already getting the concrete ready to start coming in, and they'll be coming in and getting that stuff done really quick. So
No delays on concrete?
not right now. No, they stay pretty far on top of that. I mean, so far, we'll see when that happens.
Come in next week.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. When they need it, there'll be
Something
something.
we can't help.
Right. But
And then on the playground and restrooms, I think at our May 3rd meeting, we opened up bids for our bond.
oh, good.
So once we get those, then probably about 60 days, we'll have cash in hand to start those projects.
Yeah, because I'm ready for those. I've already got the restrooms all planned. And playgrounds, the main ones right now, that's a little trickier, so, you want to look
Is
at
the
it.
skateboard gonna use the rec center bathroom? Or is that what you're talking about?
Skate
No,
park.
the skate park, no, they have McLean over there too. I mean, if during the day, if we're open, but, we're only open so many hours, and this will have different hours
They
for
skate
that.
over there.
Yeah, so, okay,
Okay,
anything, thanks.
all right, thank you. All right, we have items of community interest. Rhonda, we'll start with you.
I have two. The first one is congratulations to Jesse and Emily. They brought home a new baby boy.
That's
Very
right.
exciting. The second one is.
What are you doing here?
He was babysitting earlier today, I saw on Facebook.
You're gonna be in trouble when you get home.
It's a balance.
The second one is going to be to Robin and your team. So I tricked my husband into participating in the adults flashlight Easter egg hunt.
Wow.
It was our first time to do that. Just very impressed with how you guys had everything very well organized. You had appropriate staff there, and it was just a very enjoyable. I heard nothing but good from the 10,000 people that were there. So very well done for your team.
Chief, please pass on what I said earlier to the troops. Make sure they're aware of what was said. Thank you.
Renee? Anything? Matt?
No, sir, I'm good, thank you.
Just one thing I wanted to share is that Modesto and I have been talking a little bit, that we're going to press forward with setting up a meeting with TxDOT, and if the council is interested, we can bring y'all on board too. But there's a growing list of things that we need TxDOT to address, and I want to bring them in and talk to them about each one of them.
Yeah, and staff had a meeting with them today, just to go over the items. They gave us some feedback on some. One we'll have at the next council meeting, but we'll also extend an invitation where annually they can, come to council and you can talk directly to them.
Are there new people involved working for TxDOT now than the last batch? Have they changed?
No, the new batch has probably been there for 2 years.
Yeah, I'm talking about the one that when came to us and said about 3:32 in front of the mall and.
Oh.
Yes,
Yeah,
definitely.
It's
Yeah,
changed since.
yes,
There you
definitely.
go.
Yes.
A little trouble getting there, but that's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but anyway, we'll set up that to where it's a regular gathering, to where that we bring TxDOT in and talk to them about the issues that we have. All right, anything from staff?
Get your tickets to Annie Junior
Already
at the
got 'em.
Center for Arts and Sciences. Buster's already done it. It's a 1 hour play, and it's all disabled children, so it will be
Worth the money.
different.
Yep,
Friday and Saturday,
Friday and
This
Saturday.
Friday?
May 7th and 8th.
7th and 8th. Oh, Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah, it's Saturday and Sunday. One show each, limited,
All right.
limited performances.
All right, we're done. Thank you.